Awesome.
So she's super excited about it. So
Awesome.
and it's nice to see a reward for good behavior. You know, like not just trying to correct the bad behavior, but also, hey, you're doing the right thing. So get
Absolutely.
reward.
Thank you for that. Appreciate that.
Anything else for? Okay. We'll shift over to our discussion section, and we're going to do maybe some of these slightly out of order. Let's talk about some of the upcoming meetings. I know the schedule changes quite a bit, and we've had to add a meeting, which Gina will talk about, so just want to make sure everybody's aware. So, Gina.
Sure. So after this, we won't have our regularly scheduled January board meeting. This sort of takes the place of that. So our next meeting is our very big meeting. It's our deliberative session on February 4th. That is being held in the gym at CSDA, and that is 6:30 start. That's a big, important meeting. After our deliberative session, we are holding an additional public hearing on February 9th. We've received 5 petition warrant articles. Some of those petition warrant articles and one of the articles on our warrant require a public hearing within 30 days of the vote. So SB2 is a little wonky because we have our deliberative session on a particular date, but these require a public hearing 30 days within the vote. So that's after deliberative, which seems a little bit backwards, but that's the way the law is written. So we will hold that meeting on February 9th, and the first one, we have to, they all have their own time for the public hearing, and the first one starts at 6:30 on the 9th, right here at RMS in the library. And that's for anyone who wants to attend can attend. Typically, it's trust the superintendent, reading to herself the petition warrant articles and listening to the public if they choose to come. March 10th is a big day. That is voting day. So that is not a meeting, but it's 7 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. where every registered voter in Brookline can come and vote at CSDA. That will be voting on the entire warrant as well as the officers. So that's an important date. And then we go back to our regularly scheduled meetings on March 25th. That is a 6 p.m. Meeting, and if any new members of the board are elected, that would be the first meeting of the new members. So those are the upcoming meetings.
Any questions,
What day is
concerns? What's that?
What day was deliberative?
Deliberative is the 4th. Yep.
What time does it start? Sorry.
Deliberative starts at 6:30.
Yeah.
6:30. What
And
time
I-
do we come? Do we
Before
come at
6:30.
just any time? I didn't know if there was like a okay.
Yeah, we don't have to be there. Like I
You don't have
think
to do that.
Early to set
Most
up
people
or
show
anything.
up.
Okay. All right. Cool.
And that is, we will have, from what I gather, babysitting available
Yep.
for families.
All right. Any other questions about the dates, confusion, concerns? Okay. Looking at our discussions, the public hearing presentation, which that really should say deliberative session presentation. This is a discussion from our last meeting that we had here. We wanted to talk about like what that presentation looks like. I actually want to skip over this one for the moment because when we go through our public hearing, you'll see the current slide deck, and then after we see that and we come back into our meeting, then we can we've all put eyes on it, and then we can come back and have a discussion surrounding like the presentation format and all that stuff that we wanted to talk about that we had asked to have a discussion around. So if you guys are agreeable with that, I'd like to just kind of pause on that one for the moment. Is that agreeable?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. In that case, then, do you want to do revenue expense, or do you want to do the unassigned fund balance? Where do you want to go? Do you have a preference?
Let's go revenue and expense.
Okay, so revenue and expense report, so it's either Gina or
It's gonna be
Lance is gonna
Lance.
take a crack at it.
I'm gonna
tonight.
jump in on it because as I'm looking at what's posted on the agenda and what I have in my files, and I sent it out to be posted to the agenda, it's a version that has not the most accurate information on it, although the main points are gonna hold true, so I will have to update that, and that's, my apologies for that. Currently, which is better news than what you have in front of you, our projected fund balance is negative at this point. It's not the 414,000 you see on what's linked, it's $245,536. So not the number we necessarily want to see, but better than what's on there. And that had to do with a transfer line being in an inappropriate place. This is driven by what's on there, but slightly different numbers over expenditures in special education, with the main reason for that being contracted staffing, which I know we'll talk more about when we're talking about next year's budget, drivers of cost. That is currently the only category that is in the negatives, and it's overspent by $526,685.
That's
As of January 10.
so that's gonna continue to go up.
Potentially, there is some, as we move through the year, that includes encumbered funds.
Oh, that's what's encumbered for the year.
So
Okay.
if we find that less needs to be encumbered, we'll adjust that as we go, and we hope to see it move in the correct direction.
In the correct-
So if we are able to hire a paraprofessional, we will release a contracted para, and so you'll see that number move more in our favor.
Got it. Did you find anything?
Other, so the big driver there, where there is some, savings in regular education, that's from unfilled positions, hiring savings, I'm kind of bouncing back and forth between two sheets here. Student support services, similar, unfilled psych position. So where we're seeing savings right now is primarily from unfilled positions, and we're seeing over expenditures would be special ed from contracted staffing.
Do we have a plan if that number doesn't move in our direction? Like, what is our plan to?
So if you look in the yellow portion, it says use of the retained fund balance. So we do have $185,192 that you authorized us to retain for some emergency. So we would have a public hearing to utilize that. So right now, like as Lance mentioned, we were 414,636 in the negative. Then, one day later, with some transfers, we're up to negative 245,000. That number, we would expect, it tends to grow a little bit throughout the year. As positions continue to be unfilled, then there's more savings. So we encumber the money, assuming we will be able to fill the positions. But between September and December, if we haven't filled them, then we're going to release the money because we can't pay backwards. If we continue to not have them filled, we're going to be able to release a little bit more money. So the 185 and the negative 245, they'll balance each other out. We also, because these funds are primarily due to contracted services within special ed, we do have access to the special ed trust that we could also utilize.
Do you know what the balance of that is?
I believe it's 290,000 in that region. So we have, that's why it's so important that we have those trusts, because things are volatile and we have to be able to manage that because we're trying to budget 18 months in advance.
I just wanted to make sure we had a plan.
Yeah, and if you
Address
recall
it.
last year, it was a very same scenario.
Yeah.
We budget very tight.
Yeah.
And the budget right now is frozen, which means you're not allowed to purchase anything at this point, in order to make it so that this doesn't go any worse.
Oh, great, thank you.
And to provide the updated numbers in that negative balance solution, the yellow box, still with a 0 in the use of the special ed expendable trust, 60,000 in the negative rather than the 229 that's on the linked version.
Oh, so you're saying if you
So
utilize everything?
if we were to use everything from the retained fund balance, it's not quite as grim as it looks here.
Yeah, okay, great, thank you.
And as we get closer toward the end of the year, you'll see these reports more regularly. We start off quarterly because there's so much unknown right at the start of the year.
Any other questions about revenue and expense? Okay, thank you, Lance. FY '27 budgets.
Okay. Yes, I can take that. I'm just going to pull it out of order, if you will. So
Yeah,
all,
sorry.
no, that's okay. No, I'm pulling it. I was gonna do new items first.
So you're gonna do new items then round 3, or just new items?
Yeah, so nothing's changed since last month. Looking at the new items, there's really there have been no changes, but not a whole lot. In terms of academics, we're requesting $12,825, and these are minor pieces, like some training upgrades at CSDA for literacy, some Eureka training for new staff at RMMS, and some literacy training for new staff at RMMS. But really, the academics that we're trying to invest in is our educators, and so you'll see a huge commitment in that warrant article for the teachers. Without highly trained, qualified teachers, the rest is just sort of fluff. So, moving down to personnel, other than the vision benefits, really the only personnel piece is that district database manager, and that is critically important and has been preserved across all 3 district budgets. Moving into replacement computer equipment. So this is a replacement cycle. So while this seems to be a high dollar amount, $97,834, if we don't move forward with replacing these, the following year we have to double up on replacing them because the equipment becomes out of date. So that was pretty important that we maintain that. The only additional items that you see here would be access points at CSDA. Those are going to be at end of life next year, so we'll need to replace those so that we'll have adequate Wi-Fi throughout the building. And then some emergency lighting replacement, literally the exit signs. We need to replace the lights in those throughout both buildings. And then we did maintain some substantial, if you will, for the new items, because it's pretty minimal, some updates in maintenance. Our buildings are aging, and so we need to continually invest in the buildings. At RMMS, we need the floor machine. Our nurse needs the privacy curtain. The roof on Milford Street desperately needs to be replaced. We put this off year after year. If you recall, it was part of the maintenance trust last year. And then at deliberative session, the $360,000 was dropped to $300,000 on the floor, and then the funding mechanism changed through new taxation. That meant that we could not fund all of the items identified for the maintenance trust. So the roof was one of those items that was unable to be funded. So we desperately need to replace the roof on that section. And then seal coating the whole parking lot at RMS. CSDA also needs a floor machine. And then 2 univents, and those are 5th grade classroom univents for $25,000. Gutter repair replacement for $3,500. Finalize our exterior door replacement for $14,000. Some small roof repair work for $5,000. And then critically important is the unit heaters, 8 of them at $2,500 for a total of $20,000. So that rounds out the new items. All right, looking at the thorough spreadsheet, as I've been mentioning over the past few months, most of the items you'll see have been shifted from one line to the next, trying to consolidate and rethink these budget lines rather than separating our paras into multiple categories. We're trying to have paraprofessionals at CSDA, paraprofessionals at RMS, and then preschool paraprofessionals because they have to be pulled out separate. So there was a lot of cleanup in this budget, but nothing that stands out too much. If you look, the operating budget has an increase of 4.47% over last year. I'm looking at the last page of the spreadsheet. This is page 94 of the packet. Our BTA warrant articles, $501,347. Our BESA, our support staff contract, is $113,308. Last year, we had an infrastructure lease that's now incorporated into the budget. Last year, we had a maintenance trust. Both last year and this year, we have the Brookline portion of the SAU budget. This year's portion is $502,336. So if you look at the dollar difference between FY26 overall warrant and FY27 overall warrant, it's an increase of $810,230.74. That brings the percent to 5.87. We're going to see in the public hearing presentation the tax cap calculation, as tax cap percentage is slightly different because it also incorporates revenue streams, and our revenue from the state have gone down, so therefore while it's 5.87% increase, it's a higher tax effort. And so we're actually at a 7.91%, there, just under the 8%, with our tax cap. Are there any questions about the budget? Like I said, there's no changes. Actually, since November, there have been no changes.
Sir, I'm just looking at like the red and the green. Can you just explain like?
Yep, so Lance did this to draw attention to increases and decreases. The reds represent a decrease, and the green represents an increase.
Oh, okay.
Have we used the REAP funds? Are
Yep.
we going to be getting those again? Do they go for technology, or am I not
Yep,
remembering?
yes. So we are eligible for REAP funds, and we applied last year. We received them. We're still waiting to transfer them. Last year, we used REAP funds to fund our computer replacement cycle, or a portion of it. Last year was very interesting because it was delayed to go up on the website. It was open, and then the entire website shut down for a period of time. It's a federal program. And so then
it shut down.
I thought that there would be no more REAP funds. It then became available, and the window to apply was very short, maybe just a few days. We applied. We have access to them, but I'm skeptical that it will be made available to us again next year. Of course, if it becomes available, we'll apply the moment it's open to make sure we hit that short window. But I don't feel comfortable assuming that we're going to get the $40,000 to utilize towards computer replacement equipment.
Hopefully, praying that we do. Would that help with our current budget to?
So we wouldn't know. The applications typically open in April, and then you find out in May. So I can't at this time. I mean, it could, but it would be a risk.
Yeah.
So, so I'm choosing not to include them because I'm not confident that we'll definitely see that money. But if that money becomes available, we'll certainly utilize it toward the replacement computer equipment. And if we end up having additional money, the board has a few different options, and we'll talk about that when we talk about the fund balance options. But I'm not going to hold my breath.
No, thanks. I wanted to just make sure I understood all of that with the.
Well, there are some grants that have been applied for already, correct? Like,
Yep.
what
so,
grants have we applied for?
So we've applied, and we're working with our Title II funds. So nothing in here would be Title II funds, because if you've budgeted for it, Title II would be like additional. It's not supposed to take over budgeted items. That would be professional development. That's where we fund our new hire orientation, additional professional development for staff-wide, things like that. We have our IDEA funds that we've applied for, and we've incorporated those into the budget. So we know that certain positions are partially funded by the budget and partially funded through IDEA. That's special ed grant. Dan Molinari, as co-chair of our safety committee, has applied for the safety grants for all 6 of our schools. We're not going to hear for a couple months whether or not we've received those funds. But once again, those would be items that are not part of this.
So they would replace things that you might have struck from the budget. They would get added back in if that grant money is okay.
Are there any other questions, wonderings, concerns about budget? Okay. It is 6:28. Our public hearing officially starts at 6:30. So right now, I will make a motion to recess our meeting until the conclusion of the public hearing, which is on the proposed FY27 budget and petition warrant article. This recess will also pause public input, and we will continue public input when we reconvene. May I get a second? Excellent. All in favor? Thank you. So we are recessing at 6:28 p.m. All right, and then we are going to wait until 6:30 to actually open public hearing. So, big reading for comments. Yeah.
Public hearing and non-public hearing. So like, if people had wanted to talk during that public time would be opened up at 6:02, it would just bring up anything, right? But this is now opening a public hearing about
Some of the votes on the warrants, some of the interpretations, that would then go to the SB2 ballot.
Are you doing during public hearing?
And then, I'll stop.
You're gonna stop for article? Oh, yeah, then I'll run the testimony. Do I have, I wonder if I have to run it if I don't have it. Yes. Probably.
to the best of my knowledge, you are correct.
Yeah, I got it on here.
Kind of how I understand it too.
All right.
I know, it's a lot.
Then my mom writes
It's
it,
a lot
so
of public
I got,
for-
Jim gave me that, no, but Jim gave me that one just because they're girls. Because he's a guy, he's a guy, he didn't do that first. Hope that's not on recording, in case my husband's listening. All right, at this time, and as required, I would like to open up the public hearing for the proposed FY27 budget warrant articles. As required, a separate public notice was publicized for petition warrant articles 7 and 8. The notice identified the start time of those two petition warrant articles as 6:45 p.m. Therefore, the public hearing on those articles will be conducted at the end of the public hearing on the proposed FY27 budget articles. So if all of a sudden you see that we've gone out of order, this is why, because we noticed Articles 7 and 8 to be done at 6:45. So with that, I will officially start our public hearing at 6:31 p.m.
Okay. Welcome, everyone, to our public hearing. These slides will be pretty similar to what you will see at the deliberate session, but this is a little bit of a quicker presentation. All right, so we've already introduced our school board, but we have Allison Mannion, Tracy Perry, Johanna Schreiber-Halligan, Lynn Powers, and Heather Reardon. I myself, Gina Berksog, Superintendent, Dr. Dorothy Flaherty, Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum Instruction, Lauren DeGennaro, Assistant Superintendent for Student Services, and Lance Flamino, our Business Administrator. We also have District Administration. As we were made aware, Dan Molinari is not here today, having lots of fun with his family, which is great. Chaz Miller is our CSDA Principal. Welcome. And we have Meg Peterson, our District Curriculum Administrator, and Jen Dolliff, our Special Ed Administrator. All right, moving on to the fun stuff. So here's just a quick overview of the warrant. Article 1 is election. So we'll need a clerk, a treasurer, moderator for 1 year, 2 school board members for 3 years. The filing dates are January 21st through the 30th. And you can get those at the clerk or at the SAU office. But on the 30th, you can only turn them in at the clerk's office.
By 5 p.m.
By 5 p.m. Article 2 is the SAU budget. By RSA, it has been required that that become the first article. So you see that as a change in position for this year. The Brookline portion of the SAU is $502,336. Article 3 is our support staff contract. It's a 2-year contract with year 1 coming in at $113,308. Article 4 is our professional staff contract. It's a 3-year agreement. Year 1 is $501,347. Article 5 is our operating budget. We just discussed that, $13,489,065, representing a 4.47% increase. Article 6 is an open enrollment article, and there's no budget impact, and it's to limit enrollment to resident pupils only. Article 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 are petition warrant articles. Article 7 is to increase the Brookline School Board to 7 members. Article 8 is to rescind SB2. Article 9 is to return the unassigned fund balance. Article 10 is a budget cap, and Article 11 is a tax cap. Overall, the warrant comes in at $14,606,056 with a 5.87% increase. So here's just a year-over-year comparison of articles and what they came in at last year compared to this year. Last year we had the lease. This year we don't have a lease agreement. We have the SAU budget both years, so it went up to 502. Last year we didn't have a BESA contract, but we do this year. Last year we didn't have a teacher's contract, but we do this year. Operating budget, we had one last year, and we have one next year. In the maintenance trust, last year we had $300,000, and this year we are not requesting money for the maintenance trust. And moving on, so this discusses local revenues. And so these are primarily estimates and proposed estimates, if you will. So tuition, we would estimate that it remains constant at $24,000. Earnings, we're estimating that it stays constant. Food service, we're estimating it stays constant. Special ed aid, we're looking at a potential $11,000 increase for 4.1%. Grants, we are estimating that they may remain steady at $190,000. Voted fund balance, we're estimating that we don't have a fund balance as we are in the negative right now. Medicaid, that should be $2,000 with a slight percent increase. I'll fix that. Fund balance to reduce taxes, $62,952, and now we're estimating that there is no fund balance. And other small revenues here and there totaling $1,000. That's estimated to remain constant. So overall, our revenue projection looks like a 10% decrease in revenue this year. So our state aid estimates, our adequacy aid looks as though it's up about 21%. Our retained tax is down 3.6%, and our total state aid is up 15.2%. Tax rate info. So if you look at the operating budget and then the warrant articles, and then you subtract out your local revenue, state aid, retained state tax, and you get to the tax effort. The Brookline School District tax rate would be $8.90, and the state tax rate would be 54 cents for a total Brookline School District rate of 1.2% increase, $9.44. And that assumes a 2% increase in the tax base. If you have questions on that, I would defer to Lance as the number cruncher. But this is the piece I wanted to point out now, and this represents the calculation of the tax cap. So our operating budget for FY27 is coming at $13,489,065. As I mentioned, BTA is $501,347. BESA is $113,308. SAU budget is $502,336. Last year we had some different warrant articles. So if we look at total of all warrant FY26 and total of all warrant FY27, there's a difference of $810,231. But the way the tax cap is calculated, you are looking at the tax effort plus fund balance return to the taxpayers, which we did return $62,952 this past year. And so the tax cap application value, meaning we're taking the 8% of $10,237,537, not 8% of $13,795. So the maximum that we could increase the budget this year, the overall warrant, is $819,003. And we are coming at $810,231 at a 7.91%. And that's tax effort, not just a straight 8% on the warrant. And this has been vetted by legal, which is a slightly different interpretation than in years prior. All right, warrant articles. Shall the voters of the Brookline School District adopt a school administrative unit budget of $2,560,328 for the forthcoming fiscal year, in which $502,336 is assigned to the school budget of this school district. This year's adjusted budget of $2,540,642 with $498,474 assigned to the school budget of this school district will be adopted if the article does not receive a majority vote of all the school district voters voting in this school administrative unit. So if we look at the FY26 budget and the proposed 27 budget, there is an increase of 116,823, which represents an increase of 4.8%. The FY27 adjusted budget is, as we mentioned, $2,544,642. So the major drivers of this budget include salaries, which are budgeted at 3.5 per CPI, and that's $67,693. Benefits, unfortunately, we saw a health insurance increase of 15.1% and a dental insurance increase of 4.4%. So that drives $44,550 of the budget. Some operation and maintenance items, inspections, liability insurance, and utility, an increase of $3,840. And then small other items, 740. So there was a decrease in contracted services, but then a slight increase in equipment and software. And so that's a description of the SAU budget.
Excellent. So at this time, if we have anybody who would like to offer testimony in favor of Article 2, I invite you forward. There's nobody else here, so I'm just going to move right along. Is there
We're all
any
looking at you.
testimony in opposition? No? Last call, testimony in favor? And testimony in
A lot of
opposition.
pressure.
A lot of
Yeah.
pressure, MTCs, to join us. Okay?
Moving forward to Article 3. VESA. So this is our support staff contract to see if the Brookline School District will vote to approve the cost of items included in a 2-year collective bargaining agreement reached between the Brookline School Board and the Brookline Education Support Staff Association for the 26-27 and 27-28 school years, which calls for the following increase in support staff salaries and benefits at the current staffing levels. For fiscal year 26-27, the estimated increase is $113,308. And for fiscal year 27-28, the estimated increase is $136,894 for a total cost of $250,202. And further, to raise and appropriate a sum of $113,308 for the first fiscal year, 26-27 school year. Such sum representing the additional costs attributable to the increase in support staff salaries and benefits required by the new agreement over those that would be paid at the current staffing levels. So new this year is we are to look at estimated tax impacts for all the years of the request to the best of our ability, up to 5 years. This is a 2-year agreement, so the estimated tax impact for 26 is 10 cents per thousand, and the estimated tax impact for 27 is 12 cents per thousand. All right, so it's a 2-year term. The goals of the district were to recruit and retain the most qualified staff, addressing critical staffing needs. As we discussed in our revenue and expense report, we are facing incredible challenges hiring mandated by law paraprofessionals, and so we're contracting those services, and that is really causing us to go well over budget. And a future slide sort of shares that information. Another goal was to better align support staff collective bargaining agreements across the SAU, make it fiscally responsible and sustainable, strengthen student supports and operational stability, supports goals around staffing, culture, and student support. Some items specific to working conditions and supports, professional development. This agreement expands opportunities available to paraeducators for in-district trainings. There's clarified language around overtime to ensure accuracy and consistency. And then there are some revised language around leave provisions to increase clarity and alignment with our actual current practice. So looking at year one, the employees would receive a 3.75% increase plus a step if there is a step, and 3.5% plus a step. For full-time employees, looking at health insurance, year one is 100% coverage. They've always had that 100% coverage, and so that is no change. But the desire of the negotiating team was to slowly wean them off of the 100%. So year two, it brings the family plan to 94%, the two-person plan to 97% with the 100% at single. The addition would be our 30-hour employees, our paraprofessionals, would be in year one offered health insurance for the first time ever at $804 max per month, regardless of the plan selection. This has been the number one reason that our administrators interview potential paraprofessionals and then they decline and go elsewhere because we do not offer health insurance. As a result, we have to contract those services. In year two, that would increase to $1,158 per month. We also updated some position titles and we updated our list to reflect our current staffing structure. Year one, as I mentioned, $113,308. Year two, $136,894 for a total of $250,202. Just to kind of point out how critical this is, if we were to hire our own paraprofessional for the year, on average, we're looking at $26,477. In FY24, we spent $289,766 contracting 9 paras, above what was budgeted. In FY25, we spent $360,350 contracting 10 paras. Right now, we have $574,460 encumbered to pay for our 11 contracted paras. That is not sustainable. And if we were able to hire our own paraprofessionals, we would be able to better train them. We would have better consistency as they wouldn't be in and out depending on what the agency was able to send us or who the agency was able to send us. So that was a critical goal that the negotiating team addressed. So I thank them for their work.
All right, so at this time for Article 3, I invite anybody who has testimony in favor to join us. Any testimony in opposition? In favor? And opposition?
Allison, is there an opportunity for us to ask questions?
At the end.
Yeah.
Got it. Of all the articles.
Yeah, because that's during our public meeting, right? When we go back into public meeting, we'll discuss all of these as a big group. So, all right, Article 4.
All right, so this is our Brookline Teachers Association. This is our teacher contract. To see if the Brookline School District will vote to approve the cost of items included in a 3-year collective bargaining agreement reached between the Brookline School Board and the Brookline Teachers Association for the 26-27, 27-28, and 28-29 school years, which calls for the following increase in professional staff salaries and benefits at the current staffing level. Fiscal year 26-27, $501,347. 27-28, $329,127, and 28-29, $342,899 for a total of $1,173,372. And further, to raise and appropriate a sum of $501,347 for the fiscal year 26-27 school year, such sum representing the additional costs attributable to the increase in professional staff salaries and benefits required by the new agreement over those that would be paid at the current staffing levels. So the estimated tax impact for tax year 26 is 42 cents per thousand. The estimated tax impact for 27 is 28 cents per thousand, and the estimated tax impact for 28 is 29 cents per thousand. All right, so the school district has seen a lack of stability over time due to low wages. We've had quite a bit of turnover. You can see the number of teachers that have turned over simply due to salary, simply due to leaving the position to make more money in another district, not due to retirement. So the average turnover in the past 5 years is 9% of our professional staff have turned over in order to make more money somewhere else. So there's a visual representation of this. So if you compare the gray in the first column is the Brookline teachers. And if you compare to the Brookline overall compensation package, so this is salary and benefits, if you compare to Bow, Oyster River, Stratham, Exeter, Litchfield, and Hudson, and you're looking at all the different categories, bachelor's plus 30, etc., for 0 years experience, 5 and 10. If you see red, that means that a teacher would make at least 3% more in that district. So the vast majority of the cells are red, so the teachers would make at least 3% more in those other districts. The green would be the teachers would make at least 3% less in those districts. So you see a couple of green boxes in Litchfield, and then a couple in Hudson. And then the white is the net compensation is within 3%. So still could be more, but it's within 3%. But those districts are a bit of a ways away from Brookline. So this next slide is, what if the Brookline teachers chose to go within a 15-mile radius while staying in New Hampshire, but going to another district, so that wouldn't require that they relocate their families, and it wouldn't require that they obtain a certification in Massachusetts. So you can see the number of red cells would represent teachers in Amherst, Bedford, Hollis, Brookline Co-op, and in Milford, making greater than 3% more than our teachers here in Brookline. And then the white cells represent cells that are within 3%. So, as a result, the negotiating team added steps to the salary grid and completely redesigned the salary grid in year one, offered a 2% in year two and a 2% in year three. Both of those are below CPI. They offered restricted loan repayment assistance to try to lure in early practice teachers. There was a shift in health insurance to a far more cost-effective driver plan with an incentive to allow for greater financial sustainability for the district. There was some cleanup involving defining BTA membership, like who does this contract cover, and then making sure the position titles were aligned with New Hampshire Department of Education. As we mentioned, the 26-27 school year, the cost is $501,347. 27-28 cost is $329,127. 28-29 cost is $342,899 for a grand total of $1,173,372.
I invite testimony in favor of Article 4 to come forward. Any opposition, please come forward. Testimony in favor, come forward. And opposition. For those watching at home, there's nobody in the audience who's looking to
There's
nobody in the audience looking to come up.
Right, which is a shame that there is no one here.
There is one, yeah, it is.
I mean,
It's all right.
We appreciate your job.
All right, moving along, Article 5, the operating budgets.
Operating budget, the average cost per pupil. Oh, so this is new language also that is required by law to be in, so you won't see it on the warrant, but you will see it on the ballot. So required to be immediately prior to the language of the budget article is the proficiency scores. And so this is an awkward way, in my opinion, to look at it, because we're looking at the entire district, which would be 3, 4, 5, and 6 in average. So it doesn't give you a whole lot of information. It doesn't show you growth or whatever, but it is required, and so here it is. So the average cost per pupil for the preceding year, as calculated in accordance with RSA 187.75 was $18,014.34. The school district proficiency scores obtained by the Department of Education for the preceding year include ELA proficiency at 62%, math proficiency at 59%, science proficiency at 39%. To see if the Brookline School District will vote to raise and appropriate as an operating budget, not including appropriations by special warrant articles and other appropriations voted separately, the amount set forth on the budget posted with the warrant or as amended by vote of the first session for the purposes set forth therein, totaling $13,489,065. Should this article be defeated, the default budget shall be $13,088,231, sorry. The same as last year, with certain adjustments required by previous action of the school district or by law, or the governing body may hold one special meeting in accordance with RSA 413, 10, and 16 to take up the issue of revised operating budget only. Majority vote required to pass. Estimated tax impact is $7.94 per thousand. The operating budget represents an increase of $577,411, representing a 4.47% increase. Some of the drivers of this, academics, literacy, and math training at $12,825. Regular ed personnel would just include the shared district database manager. No special ed personnel have been requested. Computer equipment replacement for Chromebooks, access points, and interactive flat panel replacements, $97,834. And for facility safety, which would include the Milford Street roof, seal coating, unit vent replacement, unit heaters, emergency lighting at $210,000. And so the total of the new items would be $347,159. We discussed those earlier tonight. The default budget summary, we start with last year's budget per the article of $12,911,654 plus the cost of the lease that was approved, $90,565. So we're looking at $13,002,291. Items that are required by law or contracted increases and reductions, we add $405,349 to that number. We subtract out one-time FY26 expenses. So we're subtracting out $319,336, and that's where we come up with our default budget of $13,088,231.
Testimony in favor of Article 5. I invite you to come forward. That's our operating budgets. And I invite forward any testimony in opposition. And again, for Article 5, any testimony in favor of the operating budget for Article 5? And testimony in opposition. Okay. Article 6.
All right, so this is a new article. It's an article on open enrollment. Shall the Brookline School District vote to adopt an open enrollment school program designating both Richard Mahake Memorial School and Captain Samuel Douglas Academy as open enrollment schools pursuant to New Hampshire RSA 194D for the purpose of enabling the district to admit up to one non-resident student to RMMS or CSDA under the provisions of RSA 194D, with 100% of its eligible resident pupils permitted to attend RMMS and CSTA and 0% of its resident pupils permitted to attend open enrollment schools located outside of the district. The estimated tax impact is 0. All right, so RSA 194D allows students to transfer between districts unless local limits are set by voter action. So without this warrant article, without passing of this warrant article, the courts have deemed it to be allowable for a student to choose to attend an open enrollment school district. We would be then faced with paying that school district. So we would lose our adequacy money, and we would be forced to pay 80% of our per pupil expenditure to that school district and any other costs that might be associated with that student, such as special ed costs. That is something that we cannot predict, and we certainly don't have budgeted for. So this article is to protect the Brookline School District from unintended financial impacts of this new law and this new interpretation by the courts of the law. This article would preserve enrollment and budget stability, and it protects our current staffing and programs, and it ensures local control so that we as a school district can predict and budget appropriately.
All right, so I invite forward any testimony in favor of Article 6 for open enrollment. I invite forward any testimony in opposition of Article 6 for open enrollment. Again, I'll call forward any testimony in favor of Article 6 and testimony in opposition. All right, it is 7 o'clock, so we can go ahead with 6, 7, and 8, or 7 and 8.
And then should we just do that?
Do you want to? I'm okay with that.
Or do you want to do it at the end? So that represents the warrant as the school district is presenting it. The remaining articles are all petition warrant articles. 2 of them were noticed already. All 5 of them will be noticed again for a February 9th meeting, which is after deliberative. So I wanted to make sure we spoke about them tonight, so we'd have a conversation prior to deliberative session. So at that,
I'm okay going in order. I know
Okay.
I had said we might do 7 and 8 at the end, but since it is past 6:45, which was the noticed time for 7 and 8, and then we'll just continue in order.
okay, so we're going to start the public hearing for 7 and 8.
Yes, and it is 6:58.
Right, so petition warrant article, to reflect the growth of Brookline and to help distribute the workload of the Brookline School Board, shall the Brookline School District change the number of members of the Brookline School Board from 5 members to 7 members per RSA 671-4. There is 0 tax impact on that.
Right. All testimony in favor of Article 7? Testimony in opposition? Testimony in favor? Testimony in opposition?
Moving on.
Article
Article 8. Shall we rescind the provisions of RSA 4013, known as SB 2, as adopted by the Brookline School District on March 8, 2016, so that the official ballot will no longer be used for voting on all questions, but only for the election of officers and certain other questions for which the official ballot is required by state law? There's zero tax impact.
This time may I have testimony in favor of Article 8? Please come forward. Just need you to state your name and address, please.
Yes, Melanie LeBake, 2 McDaniels Drive, Brookline. And I apologize for being late, but I'm glad that I'm here and seeing all you guys. The idea of Senate Bill 2, which is really voting all day on an issue, it's a good idea, providing that we have good information on our warrant articles. When there is more confusing or vague language on the articles, it could lead to voting in the wrong way. Years ago, Brookline schools were like number 4 in New Hampshire, and now we're more like 40. And this has happened since we've been SB2. I think that we have a tremendous board here with finance as well. I think our board makes good decisions. I think that the idea of having a town meeting type of forum to make these decisions is important, and we need more parents who are really impacted by this to participate. I am in favor of rescinding the SB2. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other testimony in favor of Article 8? Any testimony in opposition of Article 8? That was the first time, right? Any other testimony in favor of Article 8? And in opposition? Okay. So I am going to
Close that.
close the public hearing for Articles 7 and 8 at 7:01, and we will continue with our regularly scheduled public hearing.
Moving on to Article 9. Shall the Brookline School District rescind authorization under RSA 198-4B2 so that the Brookline School District no longer retains any unassigned general funds under RSA 198-4B2 and return all unassigned general funds to taxpayers? There's zero tax impact.
Testimony in favor of Article 9? Yes, please.
So I'm speaking in favor of this article because the money that we would get back at this time would not be more as valuable at $57-something per residence as putting it back into a school where we need the money. We have already been denied funds coming down from the state. We're getting less money, which increases the costs that our taxpayers have to pay. This is a small price to pay to protect our schools, which is a very important part of the beauty of Brookline, is a great school.
So this article is to restrict the ability to retain the funds, so it requires that all unassigned funds be returned.
Okay, I'm sorry. Thank you for clarifying. Well, I'm going to speak against it then. Sorry about that. So should I start again?
Sure. No, so let's do it this way. All in testimony in opposition of Article 9.
Yes, I'm here to oppose. Seriously though, we are in a position where we're receiving less money from the state, which means the taxpayers pay more. In this case, we want to be sure that the taxpayers are protected in our community with the good schools that we have. I think the money should stay within the school, and I would not support this particular article.
Thank you.
Is that right?
Yes. Thank you. Is there any testimony in favor of Article 9? And last call for opposition of Article 9. Okay. Moving on. Article 10.
Shall we adopt the provision of RSA 32.5E and implement a budget cap where the school board or budget committee shall not submit a recommended budget that is higher than $25,000 per pupil cost times the average daily membership and resident of the school district as of October 1st of the year immediately preceding the proposed budget year, plus an annual increase for inflation using the CPIU for the Boston, Cambridge, Newton, Mass, New Hampshire area index published by the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics as of October 1st. Requires a 3/5 majority of the school district, and the estimated tax impact is 0.
I invite anybody who has testimony in favor of Article 10 to please come forward. Testimony in opposition of Article 10, please come forward.
Hi again, Melanie Levesque, 2 Candace Drive. As mentioned before, I think we have a very strong board and a finance group that oversees the board. I think that putting arbitrary numbers on what our school can budget for would be inappropriate. It may put us in a position where, again, we're getting less money coming down from the state. If we have, if we put caps on it, it may put us in a position where it's going to go back to the taxpayer. And I think it puts us in a vice, actually, and it would be inappropriate. I will also add that along with the great management that we have, our cost per student is much lower than $25,000, I believe. And you can correct me if I'm wrong. I thought it was 16. But at any rate, I do not support the budget caps. I think our board and our finance group do a great job of managing those finances. Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional testimony in opposition? I call again for testimony in favor of Article 10. And last call for testimony in opposition of Article 10.
Hi, Jesse Bassett, 8 Rock Raymond Road. I'm the Brookline School District moderator. So, hi, nice to meet you. So the nope, never mind. Sorry, my question's on the next one.
Perfect. All right, then in that case, Article
read it.
11.
Okay. Shall we adopt the provisions of RSA 32.5B and implement a tax cap, whereby the governing body or budget committee shall not submit a recommended budget that increases the amount to be raised by local taxes this year's base that is higher than the prior fiscal year's actual amount of local taxes raised, last year's base, adjusted for inflation using the inflation index CPIU for the Boston, Cambridge, Newton, Mass, New Hampshire area published by the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, and the change in population in accordance with RSA 32.5B. 1B, estimated tax impact is 0.
Testimony in favor of Article 11. May I get testimony? Is there testimony in opposition of Article 11?
I've answered my own question.
Fabulous.
I read farther. Even farther. Oh, yours.
Melanie Levesque, 2 Candace Drive. I'm here to speak in opposition to the tax cap. Again, I think that our board and our finance committee do an excellent job in managing these funds. In these days when we are getting less money from the state, it would put us in a position if even one child who had special needs could really raise the amount of money that we would have to pay. And well, I just think it puts us in a position where we may not be able to fund our schools. And this is one of the reasons why people came here. They moved here for our schools. My daughter went to school here. She went to CSDA in Hollis Brookline, and she's wicked smart. And I thank the schools for that. So for all those families that are moving to Brookline for our wonderful schools, I would ask you to come to the school board deliberative to vote on March 10th, and also come to town meeting, don't forget. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, I invite anybody who has testimony in favor of Article 11, please come forward. And last call for testimony in opposition. Okay.
Should that be a question mark after when
That is a petition warrant article, and it was submitted as such. But it says shall, so it's asking a question.
Okay.
All right. And there's an Article 12 on my paper, but not on your side.
So just, if there's
Oh, to transact any other business.
Okay.
So it's not really.
Not really?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Then in that case, I'm good to declare our public hearing closed at 7:10 PM. Is that accurate? Okay. Good. So then with that, I will make a motion. Do I have to make a motion to put us back in?
No.
No, okay, so I am just going to note the time of 7:10, that our joint meeting is going to reconvene, and we still have 10 minutes for public input, so I will also reopen public input for the next 10 minutes. All right, picking up where we left off with our discussions, we were going a little bit out of order.
So public hearing president, number
Yeah.
2.
So, the public hearing presentation, so this was put on as a discussion because of our last meeting. Our board members wanted to talk about what the presentation in our deliberative session was going to look like, in terms of how things got presented. So right now, you got a chance to see what the current deck looks like. So I'm gonna turn it over to, it was Tracy, Heather, you guys were the ones who were wanting to continue talking about what this looks like in terms of presentation, correct?
I'm sorry, I don't know.
I'm happy to speak on.
Okay,
Yeah,
go for it, Tracy.
and I won't speak on your behalf.
Okay.
Just wondering how we want to present this year. Usually, school board members, present one article. Is that the format that we would like to use this year? Also, should there be any change in presentation style, or anything that would make it easier for voters to understand as we go through the presentation? It is unfortunate. I appreciate the 2 members of the public that are here, but this is the first time that we get to see all of the articles together, and we have great discussion around it. And so I know you can watch at home, so I hope many people are watching at home or view the recording. But in light of that, and in light of not having a heavy public here, is there a way just so that deliberative session might not be 3, 4, 5 hours?
So I like the idea, like we've done in past years, of, and as we go through and we discuss each of the warrant articles, each of us kind of taking one on to discuss, especially those of us who worked closely within the content for each of the ones. So I'm comfortable with that concept. I don't know what the feedback is from the rest of the board.
Yeah, I think that feels like a good way to present, because it kind of narrows the scope. Each person just has to worry kind of outline, like, kind of what your assignment is and prep for it. You're ready to answer questions. So I think that at least one warrant article per member, I think is okay.
And then Tracy, I think you had also wanted to talk about the actual presentation of the deck, or am I?
No, looking at it now, I think it's cohesive and it goes together, and I think it's great. I just was again wondering if there's a condensed version, do we do maybe a condensed version, or just something that I know it's not a huge deck, but is there anything else as a pre-read?
So we do create the district report, and we send that out.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have printed copies available when you check in to get your voting card.
Okay.
Is there something else you'd like present in the district report?
Copies of
The district report.
Yeah. No, just again, trying to, it seems like there is a lot to discuss, right? And to get public input from, just trying to find ways to, like I think we've said a lot in the past, just get the information out ahead of time, let people digest it so that it's not all just coming out at deliberative session. We get a great chance to go through it and understand it, to present it. Again, just for the residents who are voting to be able to truly understand what they're trying to vote for before 3-4 hours of sitting in the lovely CSDA gym.
I think our hands are kind of tied, though, from what I remember, is in terms of how much we can actually communicate, right? I mean, Gina, how much legally are we allowed to disseminate?
I mean, we can disseminate the facts and not opinions or,
Yeah.
encouragement to vote. I do want to say one thing. I will probably start the meeting a little bit, I mean, obviously Jesse will start the meeting, but I would start with a little bit of background information. We sort of like fly through those slides. I want to do a little recap on what FY26 provided the taxpayers, because I think, I don't want to ignore the fact that we do have a new boiler, and that's because of the support of the townspeople, and some people don't, remember year to year, it all kind of blends together, so I want to acknowledge what we've done, and then move forward. So that's a little bit of a shift. We can, February 4th, I'm just thinking about, because we need positions of both the Finance Committee and the board before we can publish the district report. And any changes that we might or might not make tonight would be part of the district report. So that's not quite ready, but we'll get it ready as soon as possible and get that out. Historically, I would put copies, this is years ago, I would put copies in the library and town hall, and none of the copies would be picked up. So we could do that again, because we do push it out through Parent Square, but if you're not a parent, you don't receive that information, and so you would just receive it when you check in to get your voting card. Happy to look at other ways or other places we could put printed copies ahead of time.
Yeah, I think one of the questions maybe that was raised is, could there be, if there's not already, I don't spend a ton of time on the town website, but people go to that, is there?
To the town website?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had a extra time getting an answer on that one. I've reached out multiple times to no avail. So I will continue to try.
Is it that we need-
Stop short of me just walking in the door to speak to the town administrator.
So it's the town administrator that you need?
Yep.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
and thanks,
Can I-
Gina, for that little, the blurb before, when we do the presentations. I think that's gonna be really helpful.
May I add a comment?
Yes,
I think
absolutely.
it would be, I think we do this at the town meeting to explain the tax impact and how that's calculated. Is that possible in maybe the introduction that you'll give, Gina?
Sure.
I just know that question will probably come up.
Fair.
And while you're writing that down, I do think as someone who's seeing this for the first time, some of this does have some jargon, like steps and the insurance information, like family, 2-person, single. I mean, I can assume, but if there's a way to look through it for that jargon, I think that would just make it a little easier. It's
Sure.
really dense.
That's a good.
Yeah.
That's a good note. And then as we board members pick up warrant articles tonight to say we're gonna, whichever one I do or whatever, we can individually kind of go through that. So it's a good call out, because sometimes we see it so much and we need to remember that not everybody always does.
I think it's in like how we present it, right? Because I think we have some of it we can't change based, like we have to explain it that way, but yeah, we certainly as the ones speaking to it can.
Yeah.
Moderators.
Yes. I don't know if this is against public input, so go for it. Yeah.
If it is public input.
Sure, it is, still, I haven't closed it yet, so go for it.
Fabulous. To that point on warrant article 4, the chart that's there, while very informative, is absolutely an eye test, and is very hard to read, and I do worry that might cause some confusion to people squinting from the back trying to read what's up there.
Okay.
I don't know if that'll
Yeah, so I actually considered removing all the numbers, because it's really not about the numbers. It's just about making 3% more on pace, or making 3% less. So it was really just an exercise in financially, where could you go to do better? And of course, we want to retain staff. So, but then that seemed like I was hiding something. I'm not trying to hide anything, but the point wasn't to look at the numbers. So that's good feedback, and I'm not sure how other people feel about it.
Could we-
Because I agree, we always talk about the eye chart, especially at the co-op meeting.
It's a very compelling slide.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perhaps removing some of the steps or some of the conditions and just focusing on the single or the family plan and just removing some of the data there will still convey the same image and the same striking Christmassy colors, but while also making it making me not need to get new glasses.
Okay.
But you should go to the eye doctor annually.
I hope we'll have time before the meeting.
Yeah.
A recommendation that we don't, maybe we switch green and white, because to me green sounds like good, right? But it sounds like, if I'm reading this right, red is greater than 3%. The compensation is at least 3% less. Is that, you're saying that's 3%
So-
less than what our people our salary
Right,
is?
so it's
Okay.
green because
So,
that
okay.
means our
Okay,
teachers
yeah.
are
That is right. That okay.
are bringing home more than 3%.
When we were going through it before, I just wanted to make sure that I was.
Well, could we maybe do it where it's like we keep the steps, because I do think the steps are important, but maybe if you take the numbers out and that's offered as like supplementary material, like could we do
Yeah.
that so that people
Could
like,
we
you
print it?
Yeah, like you have the slide maybe for deliberative that doesn't have the numbers, but maybe in the back of the district report you have one that includes the numbers, so that people who really want to see the numbers have the opportunity to do that.
That, or you break it out into multiple slides so you include both. Because I
Yeah.
do agree with Gina, that if you take the numbers out, it feels like we're hiding something.
Right.
And
Which
I
we don't wanna
want
do.
to be 100% transparent. I think, while it's a lot, I think understanding that education and professionals in education are have different salary scales than in the private sector, and that based on their level of education directly reflects how they're compensated. And so I think it gets, and seeing that is common amongst all districts, I think is important actually to call out. So it might be that we break it down to 2 districts on each side, and then there's multiple slides to go through, but hey, again, and hey, again, and hey, and then that way, it's not quite the eye chart, it still conveys the message, and we can say, we recognize that these numbers are small in these boxes, so if you concentrate more on the colors versus the numbers, but if you're curious, the numbers are here because we're trying to be transparent. And so I think maybe when we present it too, we call that out. Like, we're not asking necessarily to look at the number. We're happy to, if we have to read them out, we're happy too, if you can't see them from the back. But the color is really where the focus is, and I think we just articulate like that clearly at deliberative.
What about this? If you want to put this in the back as an index or appendix, and then just let it be there and people can find it, do whatever they want with it. But in the presentation, instead of showing every little individual, you got 45 different little classifications there, just say, okay, here's our district, there's 50 classifications, whatever. The next district, 37 of the 50 are red, essentially, explain those, and what is it? I guess it'd be 48 of the 50 are red, and 2 are white, 0 are green.
Okay.
Explain, instead of saying white, red, green, just explain what it is. And then now you have the same number of districts, but instead of having 50 boxes for each district, you have 3 boxes, more than, less than, or the same.
That's good feedback, and then printing the eye chart as an appendix.
Right, and then I'm saying you
That
have
way
it in
we
the.
have
Yeah, and
text.
you want to look at it, fine, go back over there. The
Yeah.
other thing too,
I like that.
red and green, you probably shouldn't use that because it's not colorblind
Yeah.
friendly.
That was my next question,
Contrast.
that I didn't know where that was gonna go, or I was just gonna send it to Gina, is, are we even using the right colors in terms of,
Wrong.
I don't know, we'll get it corrected with a color wise too, to make sure that people can differentiate.
That should give you the, if you're thinking about the impact. Sure. See in our school district, and the next one over, there's 0 classifications where you're we're better off here than over there.
Yeah, and I think
48
it's-
of the 50 or whatever it is.
I feel as long as the numbers are provided somewhere, then we're doing our due diligence. Like, it may not, they just may not, and on a computer screen, numbers are super frustrating to look at. So I think that's a really great idea, and we're still not, like, we're still being transparent as long as the numbers are easy to
Yeah,
access.
no, good feedback. No, this is really good feedback. Do you have anything else for us?
I have one more on another article, on the operating budget.
Mm-hmm.
It's very nice to have it up on the slide, but that's not going to match what is read out in the article, because the warrant article itself,
I'm sorry, was that the budget?
Article
Article
5,
five?
the operating budget.
Yeah. So that's not gonna be on the, but that's what they're gonna vote on.
That's what they're gonna vote on, but it's not what's printed in the warrant, which starts with, to see if the Brookline School District will vote to raise. It's missing the average cost per pupil in the warrant.
Yeah, it can't be in, it's not supposed to be in the warrant. It's only supposed to be on the,
On the ballot.
thank you,
printed
on the ballot. And I don't, that, I argued with my attorney today, because I'm like, this doesn't make sense. Why would you present it two different ways?
Right.
Because if I don't present it delivered like this, you're not gonna recognize it on the ballot, because you won't have seen it like this.
That's, yes, good point. I'm not a lawyer, so I'm glad you consulted one. It just makes me concerned that there's going to be one thing that I read and one thing that they see up there.
Could we
So
add a little explanation?
I suppose, yeah, how about
if you
this?
could add another slide that has the text as printed in the warrant article,
Okay.
and one that would be printed on the ballot, that would, because when people are voting, and we're calling it out, what they say, they're gonna be looking up at that, and anybody who's got the printed copy is gonna be looking down at that, and they're not gonna align. And
But they're
somebody's-
gonna grab a printed copy of the district report, and they're gonna see this whole thing. I appreciate that, that makes a lot of sense, but I just felt like I don't wanna confuse them at the ballot, because they won't have seen that. So, your suggestion is
Absolutely.
great.
So covering it here and saying this is what's going to be printed on the ballot, it's not on what's on the warrant article, that you're going to read and adjust tonight, the text at the beginning here, you can leave it here perhaps if you put it in a different kind of text or put it in a separate slide, but so that what they're going to be voting on at the SB2 meeting is up on the slide in front of them, at least in its unaltered form. Not that they can alter this one.
Maybe we just italicize the portion, but.
Well, or could you just have one, this is the warrant, this is the, like, you could just label
Yeah.
the slide, like,
Yeah.
operating budget as it shall appear on the ballot,
Yep.
operating budget as it's being read, I would just do that then.
So that means that we can't alter that first section about the pupil cost.
We
at-
cannot.
Nope.
Oh, I see. Then, yeah, I think your comment's smart to have it.
This entire warrant article is statutory language, as far as I'm aware, so
Oh.
nothing about this can really be altered.
The one, what you can amend is, someone can propose an amendment to the budget, to the number, the 13,489,65.
Yeah, not the default.
But not the
budget,
language.
Not
Correct.
the default
Not the
budget,
default.
not any other words you get that first number.
The,
Just
the proposed budget. So I think anything that they can't, maybe with this one, anything that cannot be modified, like those beginning parts, maybe we should put all those in italics, so what we can say.
Or bold.
If it's in italics, it's statutory language, we can't modify it, here you go. Like,
The underlining, I think, takes care of that. I'm only really concerned with the preamble, the
Yep.
proficiency and average cost per pupil, which
Agreed.
I totally with you, just gonna be confusing then when it doesn't line up with
Sure.
what's on the printed copy.
I'll make a change.
appreciate it.
One
Go for it.
question. It's on a petition warrant article, and again, I don't know if you've contacted anybody, this has confused me in the past. Petition article 11, on RSA 32:5-B, pertains to governing bodies and budget committees. Does that apply here? Because 32:5-E applies to school districts, but E applies to governing bodies and budget committees. Does the school district have an independent budget committee?
No, just a finance committee. This still could apply. It's gone through legal. It absolutely can. We could be required, if this passes, we could be required to follow the the specific calculation.
Okay. All right. If you've, if it's gone through legal, I won't.
The only thing that has gone through legal that they feel should be further clarified is the lead petitioner did not identify a mechanism for this. Article 7, changing the board from 5 to 7 members. It doesn't identify the mechanism or the timing of such. So without that, my assumption would be not March 26, but March of 27, to add 2 members at that time. That happens to be in alignment with the year that only 1 member is elected. So it would make sense in terms of balancing the number anyway. But that was the only feedback on any of the petition warrant articles in terms of legality of language and clarity.
Okay, is that something that you expect to correct at town meeting in the amendments time?
So I would probably identify that this leads us to make assumptions, and this would be my assumption unless somebody wanted to clarify.
Is the lawyer going to be at the
The lawyer will be there. The lead petitioner has the opportunity this year, now that a lead petitioner has been identified, to make a presentation.
Okay. I'll, I hope to be in touch with you a little bit later after this to talk more about who the petitioners are, and
Yep.
and I've been coordinating with Peter Webb to try to align for all the town, so.
Great.
Thanks for answering my questions.
Yeah,
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you, Jesse.
While we're kind of pausing our discussion, is there any other public input that anybody would like to come forward with at this time? Because otherwise I'm going to go ahead and close it. All right, I'm going to close public input here at 7:30. All right, as we go through each of the warrant articles to discuss them, because I know our finance committee has some questions, board, what I would like to do is maybe identify who is going to be the lead presenter on each of these as we go through them. Okay. So Article 1, Gina, you can just talk through that one, right? Because that is just
That's just the election.
that's just the elections and the election rosters, like, we have 2 open, we have two school board members, and so Gina, you can just speak to that one. And then, Article 2, so that's the SAU budget. So let's start with, what questions, discussion do we have surrounding the SAU budget for this year? That we can maybe, floor's open, so, school board, finance committee.
And just to clarify, this cannot be amended on the floor. It's presented as is. We can discuss it all we want. This is your opportunity to vote twice, because you can vote in your elementary school district, and you can also vote the co-op. And it's the sum of all the yeses across all 3 opportunities and all the nos that determines whether or not it is passed. So vote early, vote often.
But we're contractually obligated to all of this for the most part, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
So
And there is a default budget in place.
it's called adjusted, but it's the same sort of idea. So essentially, there's a difference of less than $20,000 between the budget and the adjusted budget. So if it fails, the adjusted budget is what is put in place.
And that $20,000 is for all the districts.
All
The
the
difference
districts.
in Brookline is about 4,000.
Yeah.
Just to clarify, you said it cannot be amended, so that underlying number cannot be amended?
Cannot.
Okay.
No, it's a relatively flat budget.
No, for sure, I just wanted to, it'll be asked, I'm sure.
For sure, no doubt.
And Lance will be there on the night just to answer questions that may
Oh, yeah.
potentially come.
And who would like to present this?
Lynn, you were part of the SAU budget committee. Could you take
Sure.
Article 2 for us? Awesome.
And then, did you want to, I'm sorry. I
Just
checked this already,
just
but did we
reading.
want to take positions, both finance and board now or during deliberations?
No, let's talk through everything. Are you comfortable with that, Dan?
Yes.
Let's talk through everything, and then we'll take positions at the end? Okay, I'm good with that too. All right, no other questions with the SAU budget or concerns or wonderings? Okay, great. Article 3 is the BESA contract.
I'll take this one.
Yeah, you will. It works. You and Tracy, right? Tracy, you were on that too. Are you comfortable with her presenting? Okay. All right, so we'll give that one to Johanna. All right, what questions do we have about the Article 3, the BESA contract, or any concerns? wondering.
I did have a comment on whatever page 24 is of the packet, I think. Yes, page 24, so it's, starts average cost of a district employed para-educator, 26,000, blah, blah, blah. And this was just a little confusing to me because this top, gives the number for the, is it?
So that's the average number for how much the district would be paying if we hired in-house.
If we hired in-house for one paraeducator?
Mhm.
Is that what it's saying?
Yes.
And those represent how much additional money we've paid.
Contracted paraeducators.
So it's just a little confusing because the top number is like for one individual, and then we have a summation number. So my brain was like, do I do 289,000 divided by 9 to
Yes.
compare the numbers?
Which we can break down.
So I thought that might be more helpful
Yeah.
as a comparison.
Sure.
Would it be good to add a column that,
Yeah.
for each of these years that says, hey, if we had hired somebody then, these 9 would have cost this amount, these 10
No,
would
I
have
think,
cost-
I think what I'm hearing is if we had another column where we had that divisor, where we divided it, because we did want to highlight how much we did wind up spending for the whole year, in those years, those are actuals. But I think having another column that indicates what one would be on average, I think is
The
fine.
problem with that
Yeah.
is that these aren't all for the entire year, and so the number
Correct.
becomes skewed.
Correct, which is why I said average number of paraeducators, because when we hire, we release the contracted paraeducators, so there were some that came and went, so.
Can we, I'm sorry, keep going.
No, go ahead, you're fine.
Can the additional column be the average cost of one contracted?
That was what
para?
I was saying.
No, but not divided by 9.
Oh, right, just take the average of what we had for that year with the actuals that we had, we could.
I would say either that or you could make a column that's, this is how much we spend on the cost of contracted para-educators, this is how much we would have spent if we had that same, if we had had a full staff. I mean, because I don't want to like break it down by too many numbers either, you know what I mean?
Right, but I think to Kate's point, I think that would be clearer though, to see what we were paying on average for one,
I just
for
don't want
the entirety of the
I don't want
year.
it to be so many numbers.
No, it won't, it'll just be that same direct comparison and then with the total of what we wound up paying for that fiscal year. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just so we can
Sure.
compare apples to apples on this
Sure,
slide.
yeah, I could do.
Because it's typically around 3 times as much.
Yeah.
Maybe you can highlight that and say typically approximately,
Yeah,
like
we could-
in bold
Sure.
print, you know?
Sure.
That might make it clear and easy to understand.
Right.
Instead of
Yes, definitely, we could definitely list
relying on
that.
people doing math.
Okay.
So I think if we do that, I think it does make sense because I really think it's important for us to show the difference because we will be paying less by having them hired. I'm wondering if we'll get a question about savings then, right? So there should be savings associated, right? So if I did this out, I thought it was 32,000, so we get about $6,000 in savings. I know it's, okay.
It would be more than that because, again, some of these contracted paraeducators only worked for 3 months, some worked for the full year. So I think what we're going to be doing is a direct comparison of a full-year contracted paraeducator and a full-year average cost of a direct district employee.
But in terms of a savings,
Right.
we don't budget for contracted
At all.
paras, which is why for the past 5 years, we're talking
We've been
about we're
negative.
414,000 in the hole.
Yes.
And so we don't have the money to fund this. So that we pull from every other line in the
Right.
budget. And
Right.
and we're in a
All right, so we
budget
just
that
need to
we-
be able to explain that because
Yes.
that will come up, I
So
think.
I'm
Do you see
more
what I'm
than
saying?
capable of explaining that. I think that it's,
Oh,
but I don't necessarily want to make so many slides
Yeah.
that we're losing the overall.
No, I just think the question about cost savings might come up, and not everyone understands where it would come from. To your point, that was very helpful, right? Because I think I'd look at this and be like, oh, okay, well, we're savings,
Yeah.
and I know I was averaging it, but I was
Yeah.
thinking like, people are going to say, well, you're asking for 113,000, but you're also saying that we're overpaying right now.
Correct,
Right?
we're not saving, we're going over budget. Right, we're not
so
saying under
we just
budget.
will want to just speak to it. That's all.
Correct, yep.
Perfect.
Yeah, thank you.
So for Article 3, what other questions or concerns or clarity do we need or wonderings we have? I know we went through a lot of we went through the contracts, kind of ad nauseam last meeting, but I still want to make sure that we're addressing anything. There's a lot to digest, so. No? So Article 4 is the BTA contract. I can take that one.
Okay.
If you're, Heather, you good if I take that one?
Sure.
I know we worked together on that, but I'll take it. What do we have for questions or clarity for the BTA contract or wonderings?
We'll just highlight the word increase somehow. Just to emphasize that it's not the total, that's the, increase. It says increase already, but,
On that first slide,
yeah,
where are you looking?
yeah.
Where it says like fiscal year and then estimated increase?
Oh,
Yeah,
attributable,
somewhere right in there, yeah.
attributable
Or
to
the language
the
of it, I don't know.
increase in professional staff
Yeah.
salaries. It's right underneath it's a second line underneath, it's a line underneath this sum of 501,347 towards the end of that line right there.
Yeah, so so the language we can't really do anything with, but, and it's actually I'm not supposed to like italicize, I do like crazy things in the warrant language, but we can certainly address that, in slide, I don't know what page it is for you, but this slide right here where it says cost, instead of just writing the numbers, we can talk about an increase
That this is an
year over
increase.
year.
Yeah, we'll just make sure we articulate that, and
Yeah.
that's clear there, just honestly, on the written article. Because it says it, you're right, but calling it
point it
out
out, yeah.
to be clear that this is not the total cost of what we're paying our teachers, this is the
Increase.
increased amount, so yes. I'll make sure that I articulate that clearly. And then we got the feedback on the
Yeah.
district sides. Is there anything else with the teacher's contract or that anybody has concerns of or wonderings on?
I have just a question.
Yeah.
That 9% turnover,
Yep.
is that annual turnover?
Yes,
Annual?
9% on average over those
Yeah.
5 years. We have a pretty small staff in Brooklyn.
I have a question too. Are we talking about apples and apples as we go across that chart? The teachers that left, are they going at the same step level? And because different districts have different categories. So you have bachelors, you have plus 30, you have bachelors, plain bachelors, just
Yeah.
no experience, no further education. And then some districts go above and beyond the master's plus 30, and they have the PhD.
Yeah.
So long-term, these teachers may be looking at retirement, and their ending salary is going to be greater. So unless we are looking at the same teacher all the way along the line, that chart's deceiving.
So it's lack of teachers who reported low wages as the reason for leaving. So
Right.
some of them left and went to Fidelity, just left teaching altogether. Some of them went to Hollis and, were bachelor's plus 30, step 2, and then bachelor's plus 30 over in Hollis. So some went to Bedford, many different reasons, but all of those represent leaving Brookline as a teacher to make more money. And so as a result, 9% of our professional staff turnover every year due to low wages. We have more turnover for, retirement, et cetera. But that represents the amount of staff that we have to train every year. So that's why it becomes lack of stability in staffing, and also it costs money to train all of our new staff, because we already paid to train the staff the year before, but they weren't there. So it's not intended to be deceiving, it's just that they left because they weren't making enough money.
Right.
Some of them would naturally hit that next break if they left on that year where they were gonna be, into the next bracket or whatever.
Yeah.
I think to answer your, I think that what you're saying is, like, for New Hampshire, I believe most of the steps are the same.
So actually, if you look at where it's completely blacked out, in Hudson, Stratham, and Oyster River, that's because like Oyster River doesn't have a bachelor's plus 15. So there is no comparable data, and that's why that it's just blacked out.
blacked.
Okay.
Stratham and Exeter don't have bachelor's plus 30, so that's blacked out. And then Hudson just goes from bachelor's to master's plus 30.
So so everything that you've compared is apples
Is
to
apples to
because
apples
you've blocked-
comparison.
Okay.
Correct.
And then the second side, that's the districts that are within 15 minutes, they all have
They
the
all-
same step.
Correct.
Yes,
And so
so-
many of the other districts continue beyond step 10, but the existing Brookline step table does not across all categories. And so we didn't, I mean, I have it somewhere else, but I didn't include it because it wasn't apples to apples comparison. It wasn't fair if you're looking at a district that goes up to step 20 and we stop at step 10. So I tried to make it as apples and apples.
Now,
And
if
pull out
these
the oranges.
teachers went to these districts, or you just selected these districts?
So we, every time we negotiate, we talk about contracts. The SAU historically looks at all of these districts for comparison. So we do this exercise every year, whether we're negotiating in Hollis or Co-op or Brookline, and we look at these districts. However, this year, I added Litchfield and Hudson to this comparison because those are never districts that we would typically compare to when trying to look at comparable districts, yet they still show a similar trend. And so because of that, I thought it was important to include them.
I actually thought this is I had a similar thought on the slide after you explained that these are, districts that a person could live in Brookline and commute to without any issue. And so I think it would be good to, whoever's going to explain this slide, just to explain why these, 5 districts were selected to compare to, just what you explained.
Oh, the Bow Oyster River stuff.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, because it just felt kind of random if you didn't.
Articulate why we
Yeah.
chose those.
Yep. Where's Oyster River?
It's on the seacoast, but it is a cooperative,
I
and
wanna
so
live there.
it's really important for our co-op to look at other cooperatives. Lots of reasons why, over time, the boards have selected what they believe to be comparable districts.
It's good questions.
It's Lee, Durham, and Stratham. Madbury, I'm sorry, Lee, Durham, and Madbury are the 3 towns that are in that co-op. Just so you know, if you're curious. I would say on this slide, just because of Heather's comment earlier, having something, so net compensation at least 3% greater than Brookline.
Okay.
Just so it's clear that it's negative or positive,
Yeah.
Compared to,
That might make
And
sense.
we'll work on the color.
Yeah.
Color chart.
Jot has already looked up the best color for.
I knew somebody would be on it for that, so that's perfect. But yeah, I agree with cleaning up the language a little bit to make it clear that it's
That's all.
3%.
Yeah, than just so you know what.
Higher than Brookline, or
com-
within 3% of Brookline, or 3% lower than Brookline, so, yeah. Okay. But, yeah, absolutely. We're a small group tonight, so go for it.
Thank you. One more suggestion on that same note, if you could swap the green and white so that it's less than 3, within 3, and greater than.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's in order, that might help too.
Smart.
Nope, that's good. All good feedback. Anything else with Article 4? Right. Let's move on to discussion on Article 5. Tracy, would you be willing, you do a lot of work with facilities, and the operating budget is a little facilities heavy. Are you comfortable presenting that one? That'd be awesome, thank you. So that'll be Tracy. All right, so what questions, concerns, wonderings do we have with Article 5? Let's talk.
I just have a comment. I know that you were saying that this is language you have to include. Just if we get any questions around the proficiency scores, like how do we address that?
Sure. So a more detailed expression of our proficiency scores will be in the district report. So you can actually look at third grade, fourth grade, fifth grade, sixth grade. Science is skewed because it's only fifth grade, so it's only one cohort, whereas the others are an average of 4 grade levels. We will also be including bus data. So that was last year with our literacy program only at CSDA, not yet at RMS. So this year, we're going to be able to look at growth from fall to winter, and that'll be shared in the district report as well. So you'll get a better idea of, while these scores might not be our top scores, we've implemented new curriculum in math and in reading, and we're seeing growth. And that's sort of the point, and growth doesn't happen overnight. It's, effort over time. Yeah.
And the district report also shows the state comparison as well, so we're still
Yeah.
strongly
Compared to the state.
Is that would that be beneficial to add in here though?
We're not allowed to, it's
You're not?
statutory, yeah.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. In the preceding slides.
Oh.
Is this all statutory? No.
No, we could, I suppose. Yeah, it's, I understand the purpose of it, but to explain it in the slides that are supposed to explain the budget,
Right, fair.
seems strange, but you're right, it's there, and people probably want to know why. So if I include it as a separate slide to demonstrate what's on the warrant versus what's on the ballot, maybe that would be a good time to look at that.
Yeah, because people are going to, people are going to draw comparison, how inaccurate or unfair it is between those scores and, the budget. And I'm sure that's part of the reason why it's on there, so.
So, yeah, I think articulating that.
Okay.
Look, if we're required to have it here, well, it might feel a little awkward for us to have it in our operating budget explanation. It should be, because it's part of that.
Especially it's the first
so-
year that we've seen it that way.
And with the first year, and especially with having a single cohort for science, and not having all the data from our lower elementary school, like there's so much more that goes into proficiency levels than a single test.
Right.
And I think that that's gonna be an important point, because people who are not involved in education, or maybe don't have children in the schools anymore, they may not know that, and they may not realize that, and so then that looks scary, right? When you see an operating budget this large and you see these percentages, I think articulating what actually has gone into these for this year, I think is important.
I think it's also good to remind people that we are in an implementation phase for both ELA and math, and a full implementation takes 3 years. So you won't really start to see the benefit for that, but we're already seeing impacts on our mid-year benchmarks from previous years, so it's starting to grow, and so you'll start to see that growth.
Can I also ask, what defines proficiency?
So this is, as presented on the Department of Ed I report, and so you're looking at New Hampshire SAS data, and then they average it across for the entire district.
So
Right.
it's a standardized test.
Standardized.
Sure, I understand, but what are they considering proficient? Like, I don't know, understand.
Oh, like out of the scores, level 1, 2, 3, 4, level
So, a 3 or a 4.
3 or
A three.
4 would be proficient and above.
Oh, okay. Okay, so 60%, 62% of students scored a 3 or 4 in ELA.
Correct.
Is what you're saying? Okay.
On
On
average,
average,
that's an
on
average, right?
average,
That's
sure.
on average, yeah.
Right, okay.
And and what's the level, so it's proficient, average, below
It's just
average?
proficient or not proficient.
Oh, it's one or the other, it's either or, okay. Good to know.
There are 4 levels, but 3 and 4 are proficient,
Sure.
and 1 and 2 are not proficient.
Good question.
Could we also, maybe just while we're doing the comparing to state levels for proficiency and things like that, maybe the cost per pupil, because I think our cost per pupil is,
Yeah, so there is, I have prepared a slide for the cost per pupil and the enrollment over the past 10 years and projection out 5 years. I have that prepped for the deliberative, because yes, cost per pupil is going up, but we are well below the state
Right.
average, and we have always been.
Right.
And we continue to be there, and so I think it's a really important slide.
So that will be at the
Maybe-
beginning, you're
That-
saying?
yeah, that's in-
So,
that
and
will
then
be-
whoever's doing this can even revert back to saying, this is, bringing it up to 18,000, as we showed you at the beginning. Okay.
And then this potentially is more than 18,014, because when I prepared the warrant, the new numbers haven't been released, but they came out on January 6th. So So it's still, I want to say still around in the 18s, maybe close to 19,000, but it's still like 4,000 below the average per pupil expenditure for elementary schools, so.
And one question, do we know if the EFA accounts affect the average cost per pupil? Or is that not at all? Is that more just like in the pot of money as kids or parents and families take those educational freedom account funds? We don't see that in the per pupil cost. We would see that more in the operating budget cost.
We don't see that anywhere. What we see is, we don't receive adequacy for those students. And so money from the state goes to the families instead of going to the district. So it's in terms of funding from the state.
And
So it
then
becomes
that
like
makes
it's
our
part of the tax effort as opposed to like the budget.
got it, because that makes our number of students decrease.
Correct. Some, yeah.
Any other questions, concerns, wondering about the budget?
Jesse.
Jesse.
To play the Poindexter, the RSA is 189.75, not 187. I believe up there 187 appears to be repealed. I look up all the numbers. So the language is the average cost per pupil of the preceding year is calculated in accordance with the RSA 189 or 175, item Roman numeral 1A.
So it's just the
This has all been
70s
vetted
wrong.
by legal, just so everyone knows.
If that's the statutory language, and is it wrong in the statutory language? If that's
I
the
don't know,
case,
we'll
then
like
okay.
quadruple check it, I mean.
Well, I
Yeah.
mean, it wouldn't be the
these
first
are
time.
super common to happen here, and it's not on the warrant. Did they
Right.
check the warrant, or did they check that? 'Cause
Yep, no, I had it on the warrant, and that's when we got into the little argument of whether it should be there or shouldn't be there, and I said, is this the appropriate language? Because they have to be reported, but it doesn't say exactly what the language is, and so we went back and forth, and yes, she drafted the language, here, but we talk every 5 minutes, so I'll just ask her again, just to make sure.
It might be worth checking. It's
Yeah,
not
absolutely.
It's not on the paper warrant, but it's just another, I
Absolutely,
already.
no, I appreciate it.
Yep.
Just a small note on computer equipment replacement. I am not familiar with what access points are and IFE.
Yep, so access points are these little guys up here, so they allow there to be internet in the classroom, access to the internet. And IFP is an interactive flat panel, and if you turn around, that's what that is.
Yeah.
So,
Maybe just,
Articulate it at the
Yeah.
deliberative session is
yep.
kind of our call.
just try to reduce what people will ask.
Mm-hmm.
The majority of it's the Chromebooks, though, correct? The cost?
What was that?
The majority of the cost is the Chromebooks, though, not necessarily.
yeah.
I thought the access points were like $2,500 or something, or right. So
So yes, so when I wrote this slide and I was trying to make summaries, I didn't want to say Chromebooks and then say 97,000 because Chromebooks don't cost 97,000, even though it's the bulk of it. So in my head, I was having all these arguments.
No, sure.
So I understand where you're coming from, and
I think it's just a good
we-
talking point, right? Like,
Yeah.
just to say that the majority of it is just replacing, like, a substantial amount of Chromebooks, because we're on a cycle, right? And
4-year
if
replacement
if we
cycle.
get behind, then we'll have to do double that next year. And then these other pieces are not, as substantial, that's all.
Yeah. And Tracy, if you're talking about this article, just take notes on what.
Yeah,
Yeah,
all the
I'm
things
going to
articulate.
rewatch this section and take everyone's.
Yeah, I think Kate's point is just articulating
Yeah.
what these things are, because
Jargon.
it's jargon. It's the
Yeah.
jargon that she mentioned at the beginning, right? So
sorry.
I appreciate it. No, it's good feedback. Again,
Good
we
feedback.
talk about, we've been talking, especially the operating budget, we've been talking about it since October, well, September, but like,
And I've been building it since June, so
right.
I'm done.
So we just kind of, we get on autopilot, and I think it's good for all of us to remember when we are in deliberative that for some of our community members, it's gonna be the first time them seeing this because they will have not had a chance to pre-read, they will not have gotten something, and so it really is our responsibility as a board to make sure we are articulating well and we are being transparent and, just laying it out there for everybody in a way that people can consume, which includes spelling out what some of these things are, so, yeah, it's good.
And, oh, sorry.
You're good, you're good.
For literacy 7 math,
It should be literacy and.
Okay.
Yeah. I noticed that when I was talking through
You
the
paused
slide.
when you read it, I saw you catch
do
that,
that.
yeah. Alright,
Does it also make sense, since we added the environmental science this year, just because the science proficiency is so low, to just talk about, we've added that in each year?
Yep, so that's part of my slide that talks
You're
about
on it.
like all the
Got it.
things we've done this year. Thank you for your support, but it would be great to refer back to that
Well,
slide.
I actually don't know if that would, because environmental science is only here, right, at RMMS, and you said 5th grade is the only course, so it would actually.
Right, but it builds science knowledge for the students
okay.
as they go up.
Yeah.
Next gen science standards spiral the curriculum, so they see it and then they see it again with greater depth. And so while it doesn't directly just go to 5th grade, it does certainly build knowledge.
alright, anything else that we want to or need to discuss as it pertains to the operating budgets in Article 5?
Does this mean Heather gets Article 6?
If Heather's comfortable with
it.
Article 6, if not, somebody else can take it.
I can take it.
You're good with it? Alright, so Heather, you will get open enrollments.
So I will share with you that the original intent was 0 in, 0 out. There have been plenty of discussions since the court decision came out. So all the districts in South Central, certainly in our region of the state, have been talking about what we plan to do, how that would impact our schools, et cetera. Legal counsel has shared that a concern would be if we had 0 in, 0 out. The court might interpret that to be no change, and therefore we have not declared an open enrollment school. That is why we're looking at admitting up to one student, so that there is a change, because currently we don't allow one student from other districts. So anyways, I just wanted to share that piece.
And when we say 0 out, that's by choice. If it's mandated, from a legal standpoint or an educational standpoint, like through an IEP or special ed, of course they're gonna go out of district, but not just because.
Right.
So,
This would restrict families from simply enrolling elsewhere and sending the bill to us.
right. And maybe further clarifying on that, and we had this conversation this morning, I believe, that's to another public school,
Correct.
not a public charter school. So if somebody wanted to if somebody in town wanted to send their child or children to a charter school, this does not affect that option.
Right.
It would affect them from going and enrolling in another public school district, like if Bedford was open enrollment or Nashua was open enrollment. This restricts our students from doing that. It does not restrict them from going to a charter school by their choice, or if it's mandated because because they need to be placed out of district. So I think it's important just to make sure we articulate that, because there may be some confusion on that when we say 0 out. I just want to make sure that we call out, there are obviously reasons and still options if you choose to go charter.
Do we want to, or is it necessary to say public schools? Or are we thinking that, we don't need to make that distinction?
But, so open enrollment schools define what it would be. It would be another public school district that has declared themselves an open enrollment school. So it's all by RSA 194D. We could discuss what that means, like in the discussion. But the language is, so much of this is legally mandated language.
And we don't have to open both schools, just one, like we just have to have.
It's a district.
It's
It's
a
not the
district.
school, it's district.
And I should also say that is where we have room. So if we're at maximum capacity in 3rd grade, and one pupil wants to come, we can say no because we don't have room. We are not required to open up an additional section.
So with this though, we have, class size.
Board policy.
Board policy, we have class size caps. My understanding, and please keep me honest here, is that, the state could actually come in and say, you have so much square footage, you can have so many kids, so if we didn't, if we didn't protect our schools with this, warrant, with this article, the state could come in and say, oh, you've got room for 30 more bodies, that would, even though the board would have a policy of our smaller class sizes, that would supersede our policy, and am I correct in that?
Yes and no. We
Okay.
have to, if we move forward with this, we then have to state our capacity at any grade level. So we'd have to identify, like, grade 6 has 1 spot, grade 5 has 0 spots, whatever it may be.
If we were an open enrollment
Correct.
school.
And so if
Okay.
we declare that, then currently, we could say no, and we have 0 spots, or we have 1 spot. That being said, this is currently, so it was out last year, the legislature discussed it, and then the end result was just discussing the 2 schools that are currently open enrollment schools. They're talking about it again this year, so we could do all of this, and then we pass a law, and then this is all null and void. But based on the law that exists, the court's interpretation of the law, this is being recommended so that we can protect the district.
And I'm sorry, you said something about district, but we have our MMS and CSDA written in here, right? So, is this coming up, like in Hollis also? Okay, and then what happens if like one town votes for it, one town doesn't?
Doesn't matter.
Because
Then-
Brookline is its own, part of the
Right,
SAU,
okay,
but we're
yeah.
our own district.
Right, fair.
Yep.
So we would only.
All right, any other conversation, discussion, wonderings, confusion on Article 6?
Can you just review one more time why it would, why we chose the one resident?
We need
And
to.
not zero.
One
Non-resident.
non-resident. One non-resident.
non-resident.
We need to
Non-resident.
show a change. So right now,
Got it.
we are at 0.
Okay.
And so if we don't show a change, then the court could say we did nothing. So by doing the 1, it shows that we made
Got
steps
it.
to make a change.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
It's a little legal protection, on the advice of legal, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, we're going through all of them, right, even the
Sure.
rest of them, you want to? All right, so let's talk about Article 7. So this was a petition warrant article. This is to expand, right?
From 5 to 7
From
members.
5 to 7 members. So you can open the floor for discussion on that.
I guess I tried to look it up earlier and I was kind of struggling with Wi-Fi at first. RSA 671.4, is that like saying that, a school board can have up to 7 members? Is that the basic gist of that? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
And then go ahead.
I was gonna say, so personally, I don't see a need for this because it doesn't, our workload, because we are a governing body, our workload doesn't change whether we have 200 students added or 200 students taken away. 5 has been a very comfortable number to get the work done, and sometimes there's more of us, and there's always policy to go, but the work that we do cycles throughout the year, so we've never been I don't feel any of us have been like so overburdened. Even in negotiating year this year with the contracts, we handled it well. So personally, I don't see a need for this. Just again, number of seats and growth of the district doesn't change what we end up doing.
Right, and I'm to your point, Gina, like it's hard to kind of like if there's no timeline and there's no kind of like a revoting, like those are questions that I feel would kind of need to be explained before I feel like I can support this, because that just kind of feels very open-ended to me, so it's like, are we adding 2 members 2 years down the road, are we adding 2 members tomorrow, like, how are we doing that, like, do 7 people even wanna run for school board, like, I think these are
That's been a
questions.
struggle, trying to find.
Yeah.
So, I'm reading ahead this time. So they'll be elected at the, it shall not take effect until the school district election in the year next following the one in which the change is voted.
So 2027.
So, the next one.
Okay.
And then to your point, Gina, whenever a district determines to change the number of board members, it shall also determine the number of members to be elected each year. So, it is something that needs to be decided at the meeting. It needs to be an answer from the body, on the ballot. And
But this
Yeah.
could be amended.
So
right?
this could be amended,
Okay.
Right.
but it wasn't enough of a, what's the word? Like an absence to where legally it couldn't move forward.
Okay.
It's just that we probably should clarify that. We could do so on the floor.
Any other discussion around Article 7?
The lead petitioner, though, would have to make those clarifications. It's not on us to make those
So,
clarifications?
the moderator would read the warrant article, and I don't know if the lead petitioner's reached out to you. I have not received communication from the lead petitioner either. They have the option to give a presentation, but they don't have to. So depending on how that conversation goes, it happens differently, every year in every warrant article, but a lot of times people will ask, is it okay as written? Because oftentimes the petition warrant articles are missing something. Our legal counsel is there. She will probably be asked to speak to the deficiencies of the warrant article as written. The moderator can identify the deficiencies. It can happen in any number of ways.
And if it remains deficient on the floor, by law, it still has to go to the ballot as is, right? Okay.
And then we would be
Even if it's
left to make assumptions. And my assumption would be that in March of 2027, we elect 3 members, just simply because that's the year that there would be 1 member elected, and in the other years 2. So that would balance it out, but
After this, would it be okay if I got the contact information for the lawyer, or supply you some questions to ask?
Sure.
Otherwise, I can go to the NHMA.
no, yeah, let's communicate.
Okay, fabulous. And
Yeah.
I'm going to try to reach out to the primary petitioners. I just got the petitions sent to me recently, so I'm going to try to reach out to find somebody who will speak to these, so that there isn't a scuffle over the mic at the beginning. They have 10 minutes to speak, up to 10 minutes to speak, beginning to all the petition articles. Finding
So
somebody
10 minutes for each article or 10 minutes total?
10 minutes for each article. So the primary petitioner for each article has
10 minutes.
So 4 of the petition warrant articles have an identified lead petitioner. 1 of them does not. Without a lead petitioner identified, legally it's the first petitioner.
Okay.
And so we can communicate about that one.
Okay.
Thank you.
No, thank you. Article 7, anything else that we want to discuss or talk about? We are going to take positions on these tonight, so I want to make sure we have
Yeah,
conversation.
how many members in Hollis and Brookline, the co-op, remind me?
7 in the co-op, 5 in Hollis, 5 in Brookline.
Okay, thank you.
I mean, I think the 7 in the co-op, there's a lot, that's like the 2 schools, but it's because it's 2 towns, right? Do you know why there's 7 in the
So
co-op?
when the articles of agreement were written, it was written 4 and 3 to ensure there were enough voices from each town. But if you recall, we have weighted voting at the governing board, and that's so that the co-op doesn't take over any of the votes, because they do have 7 members instead of 5. It's a terrible computation, and no one wants to do it, but that's the intention, to sort of equalize everything.
At least the calculator's helpful. All right, anything else around calculate? Article 7, man.
Yeah, we don't want to
It's
have.
not
a
even 9 o'clock yet.
I'm sorry, I do want to go, if we're good with 7?
Yeah.
Can we just go back to 6 for one more minute?
Sure.
In terms of open enrollment, Can you just tell me really quick in terms of, and if this is something we can do offline, you tell me, but just, if we actually start accepting students from other districts, we will lose money, right?
If we accept, so if
Because
we
we
accept.
wouldn't get the full tuition.
We get 80%. However, Brookline has one of the lowest per pupil costs. So let's say a student from Amherst were to come to Brookline, we'd actually get more money because their per pupil cost is around 25,000.
So it's 80% of the home
Yeah.
district.
But it could vary, right?
No,
Correct.
Right, so you're talking Amherst, but if it was Hudson.
If it's Hollis, then we get less money.
Right, if
it's
it's
Hudson, we get-
Nashua.
I mean, so there's a whole chart, but yes,
Sure,
we don't
okay.
know how much money we
Sure.
would get on average. We would probably get, plus or minus our per pupil expenditure. So it's not like it's a moneymaker.
It will
No,
make
no, right,
planning difficult financially.
Which that,
It will make planning
oh, yes.
financially
yes.
difficult because we deal with knowns, right? We know what we have. We can estimate what we've got coming into K. We know who's leaving. Like, makes financial planning much easier versus a variable year to year, and then knowing how much the money those students come with.
Yeah.
Not to mention what then we have to pay out if people leave out.
Yeah.
So they,
One district was sharing, it's a smaller district, and they were looking at their high school, if 5 students were to go to an open enrollment school, if they would be required to pay that money, they would have to close the school because they couldn't do business with losing that, $100,000 and maintaining their staff. So some districts, this is critical. And just to your question about should we do this offline, anyone can make an appointment with me, you can set up a call, and we can discuss your warrant article, and I can provide you more backup information.
Okay. No, that was helpful. I just was trying to
Yeah.
see if that was a key point, but it sounds like it's a little bit more complicated than just, hey, we're going to lose money. So that's helpful. Thank you.
I think it just creates ambiguity, right, with our financial
Yep,
planning. And if
absolutely.
we are trying to be mindful of that, like,
Yep.
yeah.
Could I ask one other question about the open enrollment? Could they join any time of the year, or do they have to have registered by June 1st, or whatever that might be? Is it at true open enrollment anytime, or
It
is
is at a time because
Yeah.
how many spots you have could vary at any time. Families move in at all times of year. So,
Right.
Let's say we had a spot in 6th grade, we might not have a spot in 6th grade by December, or vice versa. Maybe a spot opens up in 6th grade in December, and we don't have the one student yet. They could choose to come in at that time.
Okay, so
So
it's
it's-
not like a 1 month enrollment
Correct.
time, okay.
Yeah.
And it's also a situation of like, okay, so maybe a family leaves in December and we've accepted a student in, right? But then somebody sells their house and a family moves in. Now we're over capacity because
Right.
they've now come with students, but we had this one spot. Well, I don't think we're allowed to send them home halfway through the school year, right? So
Right.
it creates a level of difficulty that I
Mhm.
think personally I would rather our district not deal with, and I would rather protect our staff and focus on our community that
Of course.
lives here.
And it overall protects the value of our property too, right? Because people want to move into the community because of the schools. If you don't need to move into the community because of the schools, we've got an issue.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay,
100%.
thank you.
Yes.
I just had a question. Is this going to be cumulative? Because if you come in 6th grade, does that guarantee you a
No.
spot in 7th grade?
No.
Nope.
So you get sent back to your home district?
Correct.
Because the co-op would have to have their.
Well, regardless, if you came in K, you're not guaranteed 1st grade or 2nd. It's annual.
It's annual. Yeah.
So it's really not stable for anybody.
No, it's not stable.
It's not
And
systematic.
and it's not healthy for students, right? Like,
No.
it's, to have that shifting around, like, it's just not, from a mom and a former educator viewpoint, like, that, I wouldn't want to risk doing that to my child.
No.
Personally, but there are families that if we had spots, there are people that would want to send their child here for a year or two, but then, what does that do in the long run for that child if all of a sudden we're full, and like, that's
I
tough,
think-
it's a tough
I mean, I think socially too, like, if a child comes in here in kindergarten and they're making all these friends, and now all of a sudden they have to leave, and they have to leave all their friends, and that's a really expansive time in terms of like social and emotional growth, so you would wanna kind of try and avoid that.
Yeah. I mean, some districts are looking at allowing 5% in, and so there's a little bit more stability and in likelihood that a spot would be open, K1, 2. But those are districts that are experiencing significant decline in enrollment, and so they're looking to bring students in. We don't see that problem, so it's not something I'm trying to fix.
Our enrollment's pretty steady.
Steady,
Yeah.
I mean, that would also have an impact on facilities, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
it's
it's a
something which we're already aging, and.
Yep, for sure. All right, I know we kind of backtracked to 6, but with open enrollment, anything else, any other concerns? This is a good conversation. All right, Article 8 is the rescinding of what is known as SB 2. So does anybody want to weigh in or discuss Article 8?
I think Melanie Levesque made some good points, frankly, about, in theory, SB2 makes sense, right? To have all-day voting allow. I mean, a lot of people work out of town, and can't necessarily sit, or our parents or whatnot. But ensuring the right amount of information, the right information is out there, I suppose, and making sure everyone has access to it and understands exactly what they're looking at in each of these warrant articles is of utmost importance. I personally prefer the town meeting style of voting. I think it allows for a lot of discussion. We are a small town, and I think it somewhat preserves the small town feel. We talk about it a lot in our community, small town feel, and allows for actual discussion about where our money is going versus, I for one have learned a lot at all the deliberative sessions and the town meetings and things, and being able to vote after having those discussions is very valuable to me. So.
Any other thoughts on this topic?
I mean, I think, like, as evidenced by some of the comments and feedback we've gotten tonight, which is unhelpful, is that, like, legal wording is hard to swim through, and there's only so much you can do to clarify that, I think, during deliberative. So, yeah, in some ways I kind of agree with Lynn on that, like, we're not trying to tell people how to vote, we're not trying to tell people what to support, it's more just making sure that it's actually clear what they're being asked, so that they can make the decision that feels best for them. But sometimes it's hard to figure out, like, what the warrant article is actually saying, so if you're reading it in the ballot, that can be hard, whereas I feel like, discussion based, that you actually can ask that question and it can be explained, and I think that it just provides voters with, like, a clearer sense of, like, yes, I want to vote for this, or no, I don't want to vote for this. It kind of gives them more.
Well, I mean, deliberative session, it really is, it is a time for, we deliberate, right, and we discuss all these things, but any changes that get made there are just made by that body, and then all other voters have to vote on that. So for those people that can't come to deliberative session, your voice really isn't being heard, and so you're just forced to vote on what that small number of people, which I hope more people come to the deliberative session, but you're really only getting to vote on what that group has put forward. You really don't have as much of a voice as the people that came to deliberative. So you have less impact, I feel. So I'm not, I would like to rescind that.
I've admittedly been on the fence on this one, strictly because I very much believe in making sure that everybody has an opportunity to vote, and that all-day voting gives our community members such a wide range to be able to come before work, after work, kids in tow, kids not in tow, whatever that looks like. But then I go back to the conversations that we've had, like, in some ways, SB2, I think, has been successful in that perhaps we've had some more people show up, but I think it was last year, it was still like, what, a fourth of the voting population actually showed up to vote, which is sad for me. I would love everybody to engage in our civic duties, right? But then I go back to what we've heard tonight with, I believe in clear, just straightforward, articulate information. And just like we're talking about, because of the laws, a petition or an article has to go as written, and sometimes it's not clear what you're voting on. And so if you're tired, you have your kids in tow, you're hurrying along, and you read it, and maybe you don't quite understand it, but hey, it sounds good, when actually it's doing harm, or you think, hey, this doesn't sound good, but you don't understand the context of it, and something that would actually be helpful, right? I think it's just then not clear. So I think those conversations in a town meeting style are incredibly important, so that if I'm not there, I can ask the questions, right? I also feel that we ask our community to support our schools financially, and I would like them to push back on what we're doing, right? We so many nights we sit here just like this with an empty room, and I appreciate the people who have trusted us to sit in these seats, but at the same time, if you have concerns, I want you to have that conversation with us. I'd like to sit here and explain why a single percentage number, where it's coming from, right? Like, if I show up at the ballots and I just see, 39% from one test year where they haven't had environmental science leading up to the 5th grade, like, that's a scary percentage to see. But if I don't have time to come to a deliberative because I know I don't have to worry about it because I'm not voting, I miss that context. And so for me, I was kind of sitting on the fence, back and forth on this one, but I do think that I support it because of having that healthy conversation, encouraging our community to push back on us and engage in the conversations. And in my time here, deliberative session has gotten smaller and smaller because I think people view it as unnecessary, right? Because I'm still going to go vote on it in March versus this is our voting day. Come have the conversation. Let's have that discussion and back and forth, and then let's vote on it, right? So it's kind of where I'm sitting. So
I can just speak personally that before I got involved in this process and being on finance committee, the way I voted was simply looking at how the school board and the finance committee voted, and that's how I marked my selection. That is a terrible way to go to the polls and vote, knowing nothing. I'm a master's educated person, and I can't understand these, and so I think that having SB2 it doesn't serve anyone. I think. I know it's hard to get to that meeting, but it's one time, and we get it done, and we hear everyone's opinions, and we vote with the knowledge, and I think that's the important piece here, is we vote with all the information.
Well, and from a practical sense, we don't have a facility that can hold every registered voter in Brookline. So encouraging people to come to a deliberative session is it's a moot point. They don't fit. So if we're going to be equitable and have everyone vote, we don't have a facility to hold everyone.
that would be a problem to solve if we ever had have that building question.
Yeah, but you can't encourage people to come if they literally don't have a seat.
I understand that point, and that's where I go with the all-day voting, right? But then I look at town meeting where that is not SB2, right? And we vote, the gym is half full. So until we got to a point where we had a really good problem of not having a facility big enough, to me that's not enough of an argument to keep SB2 at the moment. And I think we would solve for that problem, right? If all of a sudden we had, and I think the town itself would have to solve for that problem, because if we were able to get the town out in droves and get every voting member out, they wouldn't come out, I think, just for school board. in our sessions, I think they come out for a town meeting as well. So I think it then becomes a really good problem to solve, and I would love to be able to tackle that, because it would be, because that means everybody's involved, right? But the reality is that's not what happens, even at town meeting now. So I understand where you're coming from with that, but I have a hard time making that like my driver to keep SB2, personally.
So question, if it gets rescinded, right, so right now we do SB2 just for the school board, and then we have town meeting,
Mhm.
right, for the separate. If we were to rescind SB2, would we just then have one town meeting to address
No.
everything? Oh, okay, so we'd have a town meeting for school board and a town meeting for, okay, thank
Yep.
you.
Yep. Anything else with Article 8 we want to talk about? Sure.
But to that point, like, they wouldn't have to be, I think, so far apart.
Mhm.
So you could have them back to back 2 nights in a row, or.
That sounds awful.
I was like, that's a lot, I'm not sure.
That's 2 years staying up that late. But it does sort of compress it in, like, that's the only thing. I'm just happy to be here. So, regardless
Good little
of,
moderator.
that's the only change that I can really see as far as.
Sure.
We're
Thank
grateful
you.
to have you.
What's the timeline like between like Hollis's school meeting and their town
Yeah,
meeting, do you know?
so, their town meeting?
Well, just like how, like, they're not. are
They're
they-
always in March.
They're in March, okay,
Yep.
but they're not back to back, right? Like, they're not.
No, they're the moderator in Hollis and in the co-op. They like to have them separate. They have the rules that they like to follow. They switch off between which meeting comes first, Hollis or the co-op, and they don't want a meeting on the same week as the voting week, because that's just a lot of work for all of the volunteers, and so that's why it's really fun to schedule all these meetings across the SAU, because there's lots of competing factors.
But are they like, so Hollis, school board, and then town meeting, are they like a week apart or something?
Usually around that.
All right,
yeah.
gotcha, okay.
But they're all in March.
Right. Anything else with the rescinding of SB2 we can talk about? All right, Article 9 is the one that rescinds the retention of any unassigned general funds under RSA 198 4B2. And we have a whole, Tracy, I know you wanted to talk about the unassigned fund balance. We have this whole separate
Oh, thank
discussion
you.
point
Thank
tonight. Though I guess, do we want to talk about it now or keep it separate?
Let's keep it separate, because
Okay.
some items would be like what we can do. This is what we can't do.
Can't do, okay.
So if this were to pass, we would be unable to fund the special ed trust with $25,000 if we have a fund balance. We would be unable to have the board vote to, like, if we had a fund balance and which we typically don't in Brookline. But let's say, for example, the co-op this past year, there was a fund balance, and we knew that we had just passed the solar projects for the middle school and the high school. The middle school has roof work that needs to be done. So they voted to advance the roof project so that the solar could be put on sooner, because with the big beautiful bill, there were some tax implications, also some implications for whether or not we would be able to access the rebate. So we were able to use a fund balance to move ahead. This would say, nope, can't do it. Everything has to go back to the taxpayers.
I mean, I just have a hard time supporting this right now, given how far in the negative we already are. Like, I feel that puts more of a burden on taxpayers, because if we return this, but then we have to come and say, actually, just kidding, like, now we're in this, like, I just feel like, in terms of, like, where, maybe that will change. I mean, hopefully we'll pass the BESA contract, and that will change, and we won't have those considerations, but I don't think it's financially responsible for us as a board to authorize that, knowing that we would very likely have to go back to the community and say, we actually need that back in more.
Right, so you voted as a board in, I want to say the September meeting, to hold on to a particular amount for the retained fund balance that Wade spoke to, and that right now is trying to offset are a negative impact. So we wouldn't have the ability to have a retained fund balance at all.
Yeah, I think right now, I would love to revisit this maybe in a couple of years and see where we're at, but I think right now fiscally, because it's not responsible.
I mean, Gina, you said Brookline doesn't typically have any general funds to be able to return. In the past, if we have had them, and if you can recall, are we talking like $100,000? Are we talking $25,000? Like, what's kind of the range if we had unassigned funds? Do you have any idea what that range?
It varies dramatically, especially during COVID. But our budget here in Brookline is very tight. We're usually looking at, in a good year, $200,000. Not a whole lot, maybe $300,000 on an even better year.
So that's like
A small fraction of the overall budget.
that's like a couple dollars per household if we return it, right? Like at the end of the day, I can't math very well in my head, but.
But that could be the difference between us being in the negative,
Right.
budget-wise.
Well, I'm just thinking about how much like people would like. Okay, I'm just thinking about how much. What impact does it really have if we have unassigned funds? What impact to our community does that really have if we return it? Are we talking $1,000 per household, or are we talking $10 per household, and or a property owner? And I ask that just because I think that context is important.
Yes.
To whether or not we. Like, or for even understanding, like, does it make sense?
Right, because, I'm sorry,
No,
just to go off of that, I really think that you're onto something that we should at least be prepared to respond on, just because, I mean, absolutely, like, this looks like it, oh yeah, like, if we didn't use some funds, they should go back to taxpayers, but if you can say, like, over the last 3 years, it would have been $21 approximately, this is money that we, and this is how we could appropriately use that. I think that makes sense. Versus to your point, if it was 1,000, we're going to get a very different response, right?
I would have a different response.
Yes, sure.
I would love $1,000
Yeah.
back. Like, that would be amazing, but
Yeah.
I just don't think that that's the
No.
Yeah, so
Don't
if you
either.
look at, just look at BESA, for $113,308, that contract has a tax impact of 10 cents per $1,000 of property value. So everyone's house is worth a different amount, but it's 10 cents per $1,000 for just over 100,000. That being said,
It'd be $50 on a $500,000 home.
$50. And so 1 year might work out better, the next year might work out not as great. So this sort of protects, this allows the board, but you have to vote on it. Right now, the article would take this away. Right now, you're allowed to vote to retain funds. We then have to give it back the following year, but it just allows us a little bit of a buffer because we do budget so tightly that we can't, we don't have a credit card. We can just like borrow money for a little bit. We would have to have another town meeting, so.
And during this, if these conversations come up, obviously, all of us can jump in to support, including you,
Yeah.
right?
Tracy, did you have something you wanted to say about
Oh,
this?
yeah, I had thought I had done some math, but Lance, please correct me here if I'm wrong. If we were looking at, say, a $300,000, total retained fund, and it went back to taxpayers, if you had a $500,000 house, it would be about $125. But again, we can go over that math, because I had done it for a $60,000 fund at a $500,000 house, and it was like $25.
Yeah, and it would depend on your estimation of valuation, but that sounds close. That $50 for the $100,000 return, rough number I did.
Yeah.
I was just using the number I had for predicted for next year. So if we use like this year's model, it'd be a little lower, which would track with what you said. Yeah.
So, if you have a $500,000 home based on valuation, we had $300,000 in the unassigned fund. If that went back to taxpayers, it would be $125 about, I think.
And we could have a number prepared in advance per $100,000 or
I
something.
think that would be
Quick
helpful.
Yeah.
Any other discussion around Article 9?
And get done here.
Yes, Jesse. You're part of our meeting tonight. Love it.
Thank you. I'm honored
Welcome.
to be here.
Welcome.
So the line there for estimated tax impact
Yeah.
of $0, that sounds like is that in the petition warrant article, or is that?
So it is not. However, we are required in Brookline to put a tax impact on every warrant article.
But it sounded like there was like a discussion just there, about tax impact of
But
the
it's,
returned funds.
yes, but there is no dollar amount identified in the warrant article, and it's 100% dependent on the tax year and on the amount that we're talking about, so there's no estimate that can be
Yeah, because it could be
identified.
60,000, it could be 300,000.
It could be zero.
Yeah.
Oh,
Zero.
No, understood.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
just-
Well, so I think it's
You're like,
because the tax impact is like, that's how much we'd be asking for from tax, right? Like this is, we're not necessarily asking for tax, we're talking about returning.
yes.
Or the amount that would be returned, when the numbers are getting thrown out of like, well, it could be, $50 on a $500,000 house, and seeing the $0 there, just, I understand a tough position being there, I just want to make sure it wasn't a placeholder or something that had been omitted.
No, following the law.
As we all aspire to do.
We do.
And if you're gonna, if you want to prepare anything to speak to this as well, if you have any slides that you want to show, if you could just send me an email or let me know.
Are we allowed
Yeah,
to
so-
with the petition and other things? Or would just be prepared to speak to it?
I might not be able to
Okay.
put it in here, but if you have it, if you have prepared material to back it up somewhere, right, I think that's.
That we could like throw up on a screen. Well, we can try, I think just speaking to it though probably will be okay. But I
Yeah,
hear you, appreciate it.
If you had anything that you were gonna prepare, can you just let me know
Okay.
ahead of time? I'd appreciate that.
Sounds good. Anything else with 9? We good? All right, Article 10. This is to implement a budget cap that shall not submit a recommended budget that is higher than $25,000 per pupil, cost times the average of daily membership and residence of the school district as of October 1. I think there was a plus in here. Plus an annual increase for inflation using the CPIU. Discussion. We'll just-
Can I just ask, because we already have the 8% in our town, right? And now we have the state one. This one, if we passed it, and the next one, how would they all?
So Article 10 is specifically to the operating budget. Our current, for the school district, we have an 8% tax cap, and that's on the whole warrant. So this would just be for the operating budget presented, which would also then be part of the warrant. So,
So it would be some
Didn't
fun
we do
math.
this last year?
Yes.
Wasn't this exact same one?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I think we should bring that up.
A few of them are, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, don't just mention that.
This one and the next one, right?
We need to talk about 10 at all anymore then? Okay, comfortable. All right, so then the next one is the tax cap, which is, I don't even know how to.
So this is for the whole warrant. If this were to
This is the
pass,
warrant.
this would supersede our 8%. It would be this instead of. And so this is a fun calculation, and it has to do with taxes raised, and that's where we have to look at tax effort, which is your total warrant and less all of your revenue sources. So it's an interesting one. You're looking at a CPIU for October 1, although I believe they come out in September and November, so October 1 isn't one that's actually published. At least I couldn't find it. And then this is dealing with a whole lot of estimates because we're estimating revenues, and so we have to apply this to the tax effort, and we're unsure of it because we're unsure of where revenue will stand. But at the end of the day, CPI can be positive, it can be negative. So if you think about how tight our budget is, so much of our budget is driven by contracted, required costs. So if there was a negative CPI, that would automatically reduce important key components of our budget, such as positions. And the November CPI was around 2.8%. So essentially, if you look at 2.8%, because our enrollment is essentially the same last year to this year, we're looking at right now an 8%, but this would roughly look at around 2%, which sounds reasonable, but that would have limited us substantially to over $500,000 of what we've currently been presenting in this year's warrant.
And it sounds like this is also very unstable, so in terms of when you're starting to plan a budget 18 months in advance.
Yeah, we start in June, July,
Right.
but we don't know what CPI is going to be until the fall. We're already months into building a budget, and then we would have to then adjust accordingly.
Yeah, so which again puts the district, I think, in an unstable place in terms of trying to budget appropriately and in terms of trying to kind of like, I feel like with the 8% tax cap applying to the whole warrant, at least we know that. We know what the 8% is. We can budget. We can make sure that we're staying within that legally. But we have, because it's a stable number and we can easily calculate it, I don't see how moving us from a stable number to an unstable number would be helpful, because we're still being mindful of the tax impact. We're still being mindful of like how we're budgeting. We're being clear on our budgets to stay within that 8%. I just don't see a point in saying like, yes, let's go from something that we know is here and we can easily calculate to
Gray area.
We'll wing it, I guess, based on how like we get numbers we put that.
Can we just go back a little bit to this one superseding the 8%? I just remember back to last year when we had the warrant article to rescind the 8% because we had to rescind and then readopt.
We had to rescind and readopt. What happened was when the 8% was first, so once again, it was a petition warrant article, so it had to appear on the ballot. The tax cap amended at deliberative session was the percentage. It came forward as 2%. Someone amended it to 8% thinking, we'll never hit 8%. And that was on the budget alone. Last year, the law was amended to redefine what it was. So the board felt the need to rescind it, to put it forward to rescind it, because what was adopted was not what we were being held to anymore. And so the people voted on something different. But we weren't going to rescind to readopt.
So if we wanted to, I guess. But I guess the point is, why would this just automatically supersede that 8%?
Because it's the because it would be the most recent voted upon tax on the whole warrants. So because it's the newest adopted one, it replaces the old.
If this got passed, would it affect the budget in Article 2, 3, 4, 5?
Not this year. It would begin next year.
So an issue.
But if, so let's just say we were looking at this year, we would be limited, rough calculation, to around 244,000 increase over last year. So we would not be able to put forward a teacher contract. In future years, just looking at, we have so many capital improvement needs in our district, and we would be hard pressed to be able to move them forward.
So then we're also potentially having to look at asking for, like, we would, I don't even know, because like, if you need a bond, how are you supposed to, like, you can't.
Can't.
Right,
You can't, because it's on the whole,
Right.
because it's on the whole warrant.
and that's not feasible. That's just, to me, that's not sustainable or responsible as a taxpayer or as people who are setting taxes, because the school has to, like, we have to have a roof, we have to have things like that. If we don't have the capacity, well, I mean, I'm pretty sure it's a requirement, but like, if we don't have the capacity to raise funds to address that, right? That kind of really handicaps the district in terms of being able to provide safe educational facilities. So I think that's something that we have to consider as well, and that's gonna end up costing taxpayers in the town a lot more
For sure.
in the long run.
Okay.
Okay. I'm gonna ask it, because I always do before we close out a discussion question, but is there anything else as it pertains to the warrant articles that we would like to discuss before we move on? Any of the warrant articles we just went through? All right. The last discussion point we have, I'm sorry, there's two, because we have committee updates too. But, the unassigned fund balance. So, Tracy, you had asked at the last meeting if we could talk about this, because we're not putting anything into that this year. So I don't know if you want to just kind of reiterate or restate
Yeah.
what you had asked about at the last meeting.
Sure, yeah, so if we are fortunate enough to have any funds in the unassigned fund balance, in past years, that money has been returned to the taxpayers. I'm wondering if, as a board, we are able to talk about what we would do with those unassigned funds, if not to return them to the taxpayer, if they would be allowed to go into the maintenance trust, for example, because it seems like the special ed trust is, more well-funded because it does have some funds in there. And so I'd like to have that discussion. if
Sure.
possible.
Let me start by just explaining what your options are. Okay. So, if you want to put money into the maintenance trust using the fund balance or new taxation, that has to be a warrant article. Same thing with special ed trust, anything like that. So, those are not on the warrant right now, and they really can't be because we're at the 7.91%. If they appeared on the warrant, they would be part of the overall tax cap calculation, and I want to say there was like $9,000 that of wiggle room, which doesn't seem to make sense. So we don't have the option right now to put a warrant article on the warrant about moving money into maintenance trust this year, which is why I didn't propose it, because I knew we were with the two contracts kind of hitting that tax cap. However, as a board, you have two options. We are going to continue to come back in April and May and June with revenue and expense reports. And as we get closer to the end of the year, we're going to have a better understanding of where we stand. We might discover that we have $100,000, okay? And so if we're just at $100,000, typically we would say, we're looking to have a conversation about a retained fund, which is what you voted on in September. That money is just retained for 1 year, and it allows us to have a little bit of a cushion if we have a bad year next year. Another option the board could do, or the board could do both if there's enough money for both, is we could say, gosh, we're looking at these capital improvement costs. Let's say we know that next year there's more sections of the RMS roof that need to be replaced, which I don't think there are, but let's just say that that's an item. You could, as a board, vote in May to authorize the expenditure of the funds to move forward on the roof project, knowing that it was part of the capital improvement plan. And typically, because Co-op and Halls do this more often than Brookline, you would give leeway up to $150,000, whatever you thought the project would cost. And so if it came in under, then that's what we would spend. But if the quote came in at $200,000, you've only authorized $150,000, and then we complete status updates as we move forward with the projects. So those are your options. Last year, due to the changing in the business administrator, we were unaware of the fact that we actually had, what was the final amount? 62,000.
Returned 62 and then retained 185.
Yeah, so we thought we were in the, close to negative. We actually had a public hearing to pull from the special ed trust and the retained fund balance. Turns out that we didn't need to do either of those, and we actually had money left over. So we didn't know that at the time, so I didn't give you an opportunity, I didn't provide you an opportunity in May or June, I guess Andy didn't, because we thought there was zero money. So we're keeping a really close eye on that because that's a missed opportunity, right? So we'll give you as much up-to-date information monthly as possible. And then that final amount, after the audit is complete in August, I'll come to you in September to say, here's where we stood with the audit. This much is available for a retained fund if you'd like to vote on it. Or sometimes it's, we could retain 100,000 and return 50,000 to taxpayers. You guys decide that at the board when the information is presented, but we are unable at this time to move forward with a warrant article to move money.
Thank you for explaining that.
Yep.
Does that
Yeah, thank you.
satisfy what you're looking for? All right, committee updates. Do we have any from the facilities committee?
No.
Okay, do we have any from the co-op city committee?
We just met one more time. I'm currently working with every department in the SAU office to really identify very specific information about what aspects take more time, take more money, because we are 4 districts. And then my thought is I think we have one more meeting on January 27th. I think that might be our last meeting, and then the consultant will kind of draft the report for us to review, and then it'll be presented to the board in the spring.
Awesome. All right, any other conversation on committee? Awesome, all right, that gets us through all of our discussion, so.
With permission, might I dismiss Principal Miller?
Yes. Please.
Sorry.
Hey,
Thank you. No worries.
Good
For a long
discussion.
night. Yes,
No
good
worries.
discussions.
Thank you.
All right, so we are going to move on to deliberations so we can see what action the board will take regarding the FY27 warrants. So I will call for the Brookline board, and then Daniel, I think you're going to do the same for finance. You're doing it in a different meeting.
Well, give me a minute.
Okay, fair enough.
So I would like to propose that we're going to do Tuesday, that we take this over the weekend and final vote on this on Tuesday as a board. We return that to, who was we going to return it to?
Timmy.
What do you guys think about that?
Agree.
Okay, so that's what we're doing.
Okay, great.
Beyond that, is there anything else you need us for? Just
Ne-
because we do have some business I'd like to do.
I don't think so, because we did the budget and everything for this year. We've gone through, I think after this, we're into policy, so thank you for joining us.
So, we'll do that Tuesday evening.
Perfect.
I will send them to you.
Great, thank you.
And I assume they're gonna be the same order, so I can just number them.
Yes, yeah.
Or trade for you.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank
guys
you.
so much, we appreciate you. Thank you. All right, so, gonna look for motions for each of these, or do you guys want me to just make them? And we'll just fly through it, what's easiest? I'm happy to just make them and just do it that way. Okay, so for Article 2 for the SAU budget, I make a motion to recommend Article 2 as presented. Second, thank you. All in favor? Are you writing these down?
Yeah.
Okay, great. For Article 3, which is the Brookline Education Support Staff Association contract, I make a motion to recommend Article 3 as presented. Heather? Yep. All in favor? Okay, good. Article 4, the Brookline Teachers Association, I make a motion to recommend Article 4 as presented.
A second.
Thank you. All in favor? Excellent. Article 5, I make a motion to recommend Article 5 as presented. Juliana seconded. All in favor? Thank you. Article 6, open enrollment. I make a motion to recommend Article 6 as presented. Second. Heather got a second. All in favor?
Me too.
Sorry.
No.
Excellent. That's about nothing. Article 7. This is, do I need to read these or are you guys following along?
Follow along.
You're good? Okay, so Article 7. So I will make a motion to recommend Article 7 as presented.
So the motion has to be recommended?
Yeah, I have to recommend it. I need a second, and then we vote in favor, not in favor, or abstain.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay.
Because we didn't, okay.
Yep, so that's okay. So I will make a motion to recommend Article 7.
I will second.
Heather will second. All in favor? All opposed? Thank you. Article 8. Sorry, I'm just making sure I'm on the right one. Yep, thank you. I make a motion to recommend Article 8.
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor? Nothing? Okay. Article 9 is the rescinding of the unassigned general fund balance. I will make a motion to recommend Article 9.
I will make sure.
I need a second.
I'll second it.
Thank you. All in favor of Article 9? All opposed? Thank you. Article 10 is the budget cap, for the budgets. I make a motion to recommend Article 10.
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor? All opposed? Thank you. Article 11 is the warrant cap. I make a motion to recommend Article 11.
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor? All opposed? Excellent. And then do we have to do Article 12 since it's on here?
No.
Okay. All right. Finance Committee adjourned at some point in that, just before 9 o'clock, so I didn't catch their time. I apologize. Okay. Policy?
We're just getting you ready for deliberative lands and just
Yeah.
getting your stamina up.
It's, this and delivered, they're just long nights. It's okay though. It's twice a year.
Will we know where the finance committee stands though?
Gina,
before?
can you share it with us when you get that? Because I would like to know what it is.
Right.
Yeah. It's okay. I appreciate that they're gonna take
Oh,
weekends to
yes.
digest it. You know, Kate wasn't here the previous one.
Right.
It's good. But yeah, I'm curious too.
Side note, just because I don't want to forget, for new board members, we at the deliberative session, if there are any warrant articles that are amended, we'll need your signature. Well, we'll need your signature no matter what. So don't leave without signing the warrant.
Yes.
After deliberative.
At the end of deliberative.
Yeah, so
you can't
Lance is
just
gonna
piece out.
find you.
And
We'll hunt you down.
if they change, I think we may have to redo a vote too, right? Like,
Yes.
Yeah, we may have to redo.
So you call to order the meeting
Yeah,
in case you need to do.
a vote, yeah.
Right.
Because like last year, we had to vote on something.
Yeah, they had changed something and then we had to redo our recommendations.
Is the maintenance trust?
Yeah, I know.
I'm gonna station somebody at each of your cars.
All right. Do I make this motion? I never remember. I make this motion before we go through all of these, right? To approve?
Go for it.
Yeah, I think in the way discussed.
Okay, so I will make, I'm on a roll, so I'm just gonna keep rolling. I make a motion to approve the recommendations of the Brookline Policy Committee as per the memorandum provided as part of the agenda packet. Fabulous. All in favor? Great, let's discuss it. Dot,
All right.
you're finally up.
Okay, JLCD is administering medications to students. We have not had any changes in the second or the third reads.
Bless
So
you.
we're recommending third read and adopt.
Bye, Jesse.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions, conversation, discussion? Perfect. Moving right along.
JLCE/EBBC. Lauren came to our meeting, it was just yesterday.
Yesterday morning.
We had some conversation at the last meeting, the last two paragraphs on the first page. The language was a little cumbersome and not clear. And so the committee yesterday approved removing those two paragraphs, and then Lauren implemented and shared a new paragraph with us that is at the top of the second page, which makes things much more clear and direct.
discussion, question, conversation?
I do think it's clear.
Thank you.
Yeah, great job.
Yeah, no, thank you for the feedback. Yeah, it was like a little convoluted.
And so with that change, we would, the committee recommended a 30 to. Okay. The next one is EHLB, which is subpoenas and court-ordered notifications involving district, student officials, employees, and/or records. And there was.
We removed like senior, I think. Yeah, it's in P number 2 in that
Yeah,
paragraph.
we just took out senior so that it was building administrator, because at this level, there isn't a senior building administrator, and took out supervisor, added in assistant superintendent or available SAU administrator.
Yeah. So basically, our thought behind that, it was brought up by Dan, was just like really who other than the principal or like the curriculum coordinator or whoever's the acting admin. And then they always have the option not to also just go straight to Lauren, but in case they are more comfortable going to their principal, so we just kind of clarified, right? And yeah,
Yep.
I think, yeah, so
100%.
very, very minor changes, but
The next one is EBBCA, which is for the use and location of automated external defibrillators. There was no, I don't think we had any recommendations for
No.
changes in
Nope.
this one.
we didn't have any changes. We did have a discussion about the training and use of AED because it specifies grades 6 through 12. So we did kind of have, Lynn had brought up that like, that only really applies to CSDA with 6th grade. We were told though that the RMMS practices, like in practice, has the same. So basically, Chaz was saying that Mrs. Van Dyke, the PE teacher, is the one who's trained to supervise, I think, right? Yeah.
In train.
Yeah, and then I think Mr. Martis here is the one that is trained to do that. So they're on the same, but the law is like grades 6 to 12 because it's like school-sponsored sports. But then also, I think Dot, you had said like sports practices or in the community, like we needed to have that
Yeah.
language in there. Yeah.
And then our next category is GBEPD, Employee-Student Relations. We did change several numbers in this, and so that's why we're only recommending adopt second read and move to a third read. So we made some changes to number 10, number 12. It just kind of expanded the language in these. And number 13, we would like to remove strongly discouraged to prohibited from socializing with students on social media. And then we added a number 15 based on the discussion that we had at the last meeting and the question around.
I know, I was like,
staff bathroom.
Dan was like, why are we talking about this? It's like, because Tracy and I tried to use the bathrooms at CSDA during to negotiate. We were there. She's like, you should have gone to the office, but they were talking in the office, so she just used the, it's good. Anyway, we got yelled at, so we clarified that. I just want to speak briefly to why we chose to kind of, so 10 and 12 were flagged a little bit in another district's policy meeting. So it was encouraged that we would, just to kind of have us look at them as well. And we just all agreed, I think, that the language, especially in 12, felt a little bit clunky. So Lauren looked up some surrounding districts and we kind of found a good compromise. So number 10, I think we added the first sentence, so have professional and supportive relationships. However, we did want to continue to clarify that staff members are not attempting to counsel, assess, diagnose. Like, those are things that are out of our scope and out of their scope as a teacher. So, and then I think we added should refer the student to the appropriate, or no, that was in there already. So we basically just added the first one, like we want our staff to have professional and supportive relationships there with their kids a lot, but we don't want them, and also from the staff point of view, it's a protection thing, like we don't want them to feel like they're obligated to step into those roles when they may not feel trained to do that. So we clarified that, and then number 12, I think everyone just really did not enjoy. We had a very robust conversation about number 12. So again, Lauren looked that up, because we were just making the point that like doors may be closed for a variety of reasons throughout the school day that have nothing to do with nefarious behavior, just you're trying to help a child calm down. There may be a private testing that they need to do. Maybe it's in their IEP. Like there's a number of reasons the door might be closed. However, we wanted to make sure that you could still see in, so that we added, will not be alone in a windowless room with a student with the door closed. So if the door is closed, there just needs to be a way that people can still see in, right? So, like, Dan's office has the windows right on the side. If Lauren
All the
was-
doors do.
Yeah, all the doors.
The doors all have windows.
We thought briefly maybe one door did not. Lauren offered to
Yeah,
replace
it
the door,
is.
but
But
it
the
does.
door has a window. The door has a window, and I was confident that door had a window.
Yes, we were
I just
confident.
wasn't going to
If
get
not,
into
Lauren
that.
offered to buy a new one, but
we could have done a field trip. The
This
door-
also though prevents teachers from like putting paper up to cover said window, right?
Yes.
So like,
Yes.
Correct.
that just
there has
further
to be
protects us. There has to be a way to see.
There has to be a way to
That's
see in. We also debated a little bit about like the lights on or off. So we kind of came to a procedural understanding. I don't know that it needs to go into policy. I will leave that to you guys. But procedurally, like some students are going to prefer natural light, depending on like where they're at, if they need to calm down. However, Dan turned off the lights in his office and goes, "Well, how do you feel about this?" And I was like, "Absolutely not. Like, you cannot have my daughter in a room with a light level like this." Like, I felt very strongly that it was like too dark. So, I think procedurally we're going to be looking at like the lights may be off for natural light, but like Lynn had mentioned, it needs to be like sunlight coming in. Like, you still need to be able to see into the room,
Yeah.
right? Because it's just I think, and that's a comfort level. But I mean, the other thing we had talked about is that if it's in an IEP for a student to have like low light. That's different because a parent has been talked to, they've agreed, they've offered, like, that's gonna be a different thing. We're talking just about like, hey, a kid's really overstimulated, maybe they go to Dan's office, they want a lower light level, because he does offer, I think he said, right? So, yes, that's fine, but as long as we can still see into the office through the windows. But if you can't, then I think you just need to have like more of a natural light. Am I getting that?
Yeah, I think just the important part is we added in that unless it's serving an educational, health-related
Yes.
security. If someone's sick, and they're at the nurse's office, we can
Yes.
turn the lights off and they can sit in a quiet room, right? Like, that's not against the rules. But yeah, you touched on that. I think that's, as it was written before, the nurse couldn't be alone.
Yeah,
And-
it left a lot of ambiguity that
Yeah.
kind of, and so I think definitely adding in the educational, health related or security purpose. I will also just note, as Lauren noted, that seclusion is going to be a different thing. Obviously, that's a very,
Yeah, that has nothing to do with
That has
this.
nothing to do with this. So, just wanted to note that that is separate
Yep.
from this. And there's a whole other policy that would address that. So yeah, but we want you guys to kind of take a look at these and think about these. And I just wanted to update you on like what the conversation was about, so you were aware of like what the policy committee talked about. We just all feel very strongly that people don't need to be on social media with their teachers. So that's why we added that. And then the bathroom thing. It's just for everyone's protection, but does not ban us from using bathrooms at deliberative, because that is not during the school day. So.
And then lastly, if you adopt EBBCA, the use of AEDs, then we need to rescind policy KFD because the new policy will
Yeah, I was gonna say, I looked for JCL. I was like, there is no JCL.
I don't think we currently.
Okay, because I spent a good 15 minutes looking for this yesterday. So we had originally been told that we would need to rescind two. Apparently one of them does not exist, but this is, I think, pretty straightforward. We are happy to, the committee had recommended maybe unless there was a specific concern, but I feel like it's pretty straightforward. So if everyone's comfortable with that, we can adopt this and then rescind.
I'm sorry, just, so we are adopting KFD and rescinding JLC, or vice versa?
No, vice versa.
Thank you.
We're
Okay.
adopting EBBCA and rescinding KFD.
Gotcha, okay. Thanks for clarifying.
Yep, so basically the first one that we just looked at, where we talked about the grades K through 6, we would adopt that, and
Yep.
then we would rescind.
Fair.
Anything else? Can I ask a procedural? Can we move the voting on the memo to the end of our discussion of the memo? It feels weird that we do it at the beginning. Why do we do this at the beginning?
I think you usually do it at the end.
But it's always in the
It's- I think
packet at
she-
the beginning.
Yeah, no, I think she puts it there, but
Well, I've always done it at the end, and I always do it at the beginning, and I'm like, it feels weird.
I think we make a motion, then we discuss, then we vote.
Yeah, you open it for discussion and then.
Yeah.
Well,
Several
you did vote.
yeah.
I did vote, right, but
That's
you
what I
weren't
thought.
supposed to.
They open it for
Well, just
discussion.
kidding, all right.
So it's been a really long day.
One
Yeah.
town does
I'll
them
get
all
it.
together, the
Yeah.
other town then votes on them individually.
Get it
after
right
each discussion.
eventually.
I mean, does
I
anyone
know.
have any, do we can rescind the vote, does anyone have any concerns with the recommendation?
They already approved this.
Yeah, about the fact that we already agreed that this was fine? The only one that.
Well, it's approved.
Right, the only one that we're not adopting is the, employee student relations, that is just for,
That's
that's a
moving to a
read.
third read.
Yeah, so we will, that is not being adopted tonight, because we want you guys, it's a pretty important one, we want everyone to take a look at it. The other ones had very minimal changes, or, you know, the only other one I think we changed was the emergency care, and everyone felt like that change was good, so.
And then, the policy committee, it sort of takes a bit of a hiatus as we move through these, public hearing months, deliberative sessions and everything. We have two potentially the same, potentially new, I don't know, time will tell, board members, after the March vote. And, at your March meeting at the end of the month, that's when you start talking about, assigning people to various committees and such. So you guys can choose if you want, because Johanna's not up for re-election, if you feel strongly about staying on and you feel okay with her staying on to policy, you can recommend that she continue the work, in which case at the March meeting, the policy committee can move forward and say, take GB, EBB forward, you know, for third read and adopt and start the work, or you can wait another month.
I mean, I like policy committee, I think, it helps me understand things better, so I don't ask 18 questions during this meeting, which is, no, fine, but I would be happy to stay with this committee if that's.
Lynn, are you okay continuing forward at least until the reorg? That way we can keep
Yeah,
going?
I'm happy, yeah,
Cool.
seems good.
All right, do we need to vote on it, or
I
that's,
enjoyed it.
that's good enough? That's good enough. It's good enough, right? Okay,
All right, we're all good.
okay, so,
We need a motion then.
I know.
We don't need to vote on it.
We do, actually. I'm making a motion that the board, by roll call, go into non-public session pursuant to RSA 91A 32A, the dismissal, promotion, or compensation of any public employee, and RSA 91-A3-C, to discuss a matter which, if discussed in public, would likely adversely affect the reputation of a person other than a member of the body or agency itself. Second. I need a second. Excellent. We have to go by roll call, so Lynn, you get to go first.
I say in favor, or
You say Lynn, aye.
Lynn, aye. Lynn Powers, aye, sorry.
Wait, just, yeah.
Heather Reardon, aye.
Tracy Perry, aye.
Johanna, aye.
Allison Minion, aye.
I'm not saying my last name, I'm sorry.
All right.
Don't have time for this.
However, I'm gonna ask if anybody needs I'm gonna make a statement, if anybody needs a bathroom break on the way there, like, let's just take one.
And then, I'm gonna start.
You're gonna start,
conversation, yeah.
yes.
Gina will start, and
I
then Gina will leave, and we all get to stay.
So can we leave our stuff?
Please bring your computers with you.
Okay. So
So fun, be there first.
well, I was gonna
Yeah,
see.
I'm gonna.